Spaces dropped on another edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Thursday edition. We've got Niko Moreno of Tulsa Sports joining us in about a half hour to talk Seattle and Atlanta, the big game of the weekend on Big Fox Sunday, late afternoon on our side of the country, early afternoon out on the West Coast. We got the 2's to talk about from last night, 5 goals past FC Tulsa. Laurence Wy will join the show, our old friend from Atlanta United 2 and Atlanta United, now a member of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. We will talk about the USL Championship and the Rowdies' hot start with Laurence, and we'll get into all the other news of the day, and it's actually fairly plentiful. Harry Kane has spoken. He has broken his silence. We'll hear what Harry Kane has to say. We've got to start, though, with Enzo Perez, the new goalkeeper of the year. Somehow, River Plate, with 11 players, with no goalkeeper who is a midfielder who is injured enough to where he can't even take goal kicks. Enzo Perez gives up 1 goal late. River Plate scored 2 early, and they actually won last night in the debacle that was Game 5 in the Copa Libertadores. And I have not seen the Independiente Santa Fe manager stepping down yet, and I'm wondering why.
Maybe, hopefully, because he's walking home. And he hasn't gotten back home yet.
That's a long way.
And then when he gets home, then he'll sit there and resign.
That's a long, long way. That's a long walk, John.
He deserves it.
It's pretty bad. They gave up 2 goals in 6 minutes. Really bad. Enzo Perez had to make 4 saves. They weren't really of the difficult variety. He didn't look comfortable in goal. It was a little bit of an adventure for Enzo, but he got it done, and River Plate got it done somehow in this just ridiculousness of a game. He said he used the penalty spot as a reference point after talking to people about playing in goal, and he just tried to keep his focus. Did give up the goal late, really wasn't tested after that. It's just a crazy situation where they only had 11 players. They had no subs. All 4 of their goalkeepers were out. They have to throw Enzo in, and he's injured. And River Plate found a way. It's one of the most miraculous wins you will ever find.
Build the statue now. And it would be an accurate representation of Enzo Perez, considering he couldn't move because of his hamstring.
Basically. I mean, it's bad when you have a midfielder in goal and he can't take the goal kicks because he's injured. That's kind of a problem. We will talk about this and other things tonight at Urban Tree Cidery. We will be there starting at 6 o'clock with our live show. We'll be there a little bit before if you want to come out and hang out early. Get in on some of the specials. If you can make it out, come over to the table where we're setting up and check in as a SDH follower, and you will get a free Urban Tree FC 6-pack. It's the official cider of Atlanta United 2. We'll also be doing our Q&A as well at the end of the show. John Aiken from Oglethorpe University and UFA will be joining us. John played professionally for the Charleston Battery, for the Atlanta Silverbacks. He's coached at Oglethorpe for over 20 years, one of the leading D3 programs in the Southeast. He's coached in the youth game for almost as long as well. So John is always a fun interview, and we're going to talk about some of the changes on the youth soccer landscape in Metro Atlanta, get his take on Atlanta United so far this season, and look ahead to what I guess, normal college season will look like in the fall after a not-so-normal college season happened in 2020 and 2021. But John Aiken will join us tonight, and we'll have all of our usual shenanigans as well. There is a rumor that Jarrett Smith will be crashing the party, but it is still a rumor at this point. Big Sam will not be crashing the party. Big Sam is not coming back to West Brom, and he is angry because someone called out his usual tactics. He said it was, I believe the word he used was disgusting that somebody would say such a thing.
Right.
Okay, Big Sam. He also said he is a short-term manager at this point. West Brom wanted to sign him to a longer-term deal. which makes me question the long-term future of West Brom. But he said no, and then he got very upset after the game yesterday, and he had some very choice quotes. If you want to go dig those out, I don't even know what to say about Big Sam anymore at this point. I really don't. It has gotten a little silly. There is a report now out of Spain that another man on Tottenham's coaching list has said no. Max Allegri, according to AS, has said no to Tottenham. He does not have a team currently. He has rejected Tottenham's interest because he wants to see what happens with Zinedine Zidane and the Real Madrid bench. That's another one down for Tottenham. They're left at this point with, from what I've seen, as realistic candidates. Eric Ten Hag's name has come back up, which would be a great hire if they can pull that one off, but I think he had ruled it out originally. We'll see if that changes again. Graham Potter's name has come up, and that seems to be the most likely one at this stage. Roberto Martinez's name has come up, and that's an intriguing one if he wants to get back into club management after the Euros. I haven't seen Rafa Benitez's name come up really in a while outside of wild speculation. Those are the three in Potter and Martinez that keep coming back. Potter seems like the most realistic one. Ten Hag seems like the pie in the sky, and Martinez is the one that I don't really know how to feel on.
All right, so our friends at bookmakers.co.uk have a composite.
Oh, boy.
Their favorite at 15-8 at William Hill is Inzaghi.
There is talk that he's going to leave Italy, and I haven't seen a lot of him linked directly to Tottenham at this point.
Brendan Rodgers at 8-1.
Forget it. That's just stealing money.
At Bet Victor. Paddy Power has Scott Parker at 9-1.
That's no. Like, you really can't sell that one to me. No.
Potter at 10-1 at Paddy Power.
Potter makes a lot of sense. If I was throwing juice boxes at this and I was a thorough degenerate, that would be the one I would probably go for.
Nuno at 14-1 at Bet Victor.
If you want Nuno's agent to run the club and the transfer policy, go ahead.
Conte at Betfair is 16-1.
What? Are they drunk?
Apparently.
Are they hammered? Good grief.
Roberto Martinez also at 16-1 at Bet Victor.
Yeah.
And then two more at Betfair, both at 20-1, Lopetegui and Sadi.
They're not getting Lopetegui. And Sadi would be somebody I would absolutely go after, but it sounds like they're not. I don't know if they have enough cigarettes to offer.
Yes. That definitely would have to be a problem.
They've got to get somebody who will be there for the long term because they've got a rebuilding process. They're not going to keep Harry Kane. I mean, if you have seen his comments today that have come out, this is the start to his exit.
Yeah.
It's completely obvious now. If there was any thought that he might be able to be persuaded, no, not after what has been said. There's just no way it's going to work. So now what? Tottenham needs to get as much money as possible, and they need to do it quickly. And they need to tie this in to the managerial hire, in my opinion, because this makes it a more appealing job. I don't think it's all that appealing of a job at the moment with a team that was okay. How many managers are going to come in and make that team a whole lot better than they were? I'm not buying it. I think the fat check that you could get for Harry Kane is more appealing to a new manager coming into Tottenham than the actual presence of Harry Kane at this point if he's not happy there. And it's time to move on. I'm trying to pull up the direct quotes of what he said. I believe he did an interview with a show with Gary Neville. It was a different show
on his YouTube show. I got him
on his YouTube show. It was a different show than I was accustomed to seeing. You have the quotes?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was after the. It was Sky Pundits on his future. Where was it? I had it and then I lost it because I went to Mason. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I don't want to end my career with regrets. It was on Gary Neville's show. I don't want to come to the end of my career and have any regrets. I want to be the best that I can be. I never said I'd stay at Spurs for the rest of my career, and I never said I'd leave Spurs. People might say he's desperate for trophies, he needs trophies, but I feel like I've still got almost another career to play. I've got 7-8 years, kind of what I've already had in the Premier League, so I'm not rushing anything. I'm not desperate to do anything.
I still think this is putting the pressure on Tottenham because, I mean, he says there's definitely a conversation to be had with the club. He wants to know what the chairman is thinking. He might want to sell me. He might be thinking, if I could get £100 million, then why not? He said, I'm not going to be worth that for the next 2 to 3 years. I don't know. I think he's trying to play the nice guy here, and he doesn't want to anger Tottenham fans because I think he has a lot of respect for the fan base. But, yeah, when you get down to saying, you know, I'm sure that Levy will want to set out the plan of where he sees it, but ultimately it's going to be down to me and how I feel and what's going to be best for me and my career at this moment in time. That feels like, yeah, it ain't here.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's the best thing for Tottenham at this time either.
No, he said on the overlap, I'm not afraid to say I want to be the best. I want to try and get on the level Ronaldo and Messi got to. That's my ultimate goal, to be winning trophies season in, season out, scoring 50, 60, 70 goals season in, season out. The pressure from myself is always bigger than anything anyone else can put on me.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that. And, you know, we've talked about it this season. I feel like he gets overlooked as one of the best players in the world. And he is one of the best players in the world. Maybe he's been overlooked because he's at a club in Tottenham that isn't looked at as one of the best clubs in the world. If he wants to be that, he's probably going to have to go to somebody who's in the mix for the Champions League. And Tottenham had their chance, and they weren't able to solidify that. So if it's Manchester City, which it seems like that's the one that most people have talked about, I can absolutely see him fitting into that system. If it's Manchester United, who should be overly aggressive to go get him, I don't know if they will. If it's Chelsea, who has been linked, but I think that one's the least likely just because of the whole London thing, and I don't know if he would want to take that one. If he wants to stay in England, it feels like Manchester City is where he will be. And I don't know what kind of money there would be outside of England for him if he really wanted to leave. In a normal season, in a normal situation, your Real Madrids, your Barcelonas, your Juves would all be in the running, but none of them really have the funding at the moment to pull that one off. So I think it's Manchester City, and I think it is over £100 million. I think Tottenham can get more than that for him, and they should. And I'll continue to say it until they figure out what they're doing with the managerial job. I feel like that huge check will make that job more appealing to somebody to come in to be able to build what they want. So stay tuned. I'm sure there will be more follow-ups and more quotes given, and you know, it's best for everybody if this gets resolved on the quicker side and doesn't linger, but I just have a feeling it's going to be the backdrop to the European Championships of where will Harry Kane be next season.
Yeah. And I know that we've talked about numbers that you can get, and I think that having a war chest to be able to bring in players and have a rebuild, if it's Kane's money, if it's Kane's and Son's money, you know, what have you, that to me means that you can do that and do more with that than having players who would be disenchanted by not moving on. And I think that right now, you know, I think that if you're a manager who's interested in Spurs, I think you're laying out for a little while just to see what the landscape is, because you don't want to get, you know, pinned into something, then sit there and say, yeah, I want the Spurs job. Yeah, I've got Harry Kane here. Yeah, I've got Young-min Son here. And then have something happen with them. I think that you're going to have a little while before that guy on the touchline is named, and I think that you're going to have the Kane situation resolved one way or the other. Then whatever happens there will dictate who's going to be there on the touchline.
According to Bild in Germany, Ed Terzic's name needs to be added. He was at Dortmund as the interim. He said, "This week I will enjoy our success, and next week I used to think about things." It'd be an interesting one. That'd be a very interesting one if they went down that road. I don't know enough about his long-term managerial career to say if he's the right guy or not. But what he did with Dortmund was impressive because they were a mess. I did not see them getting into Champions League. They ultimately did that because of his work. So he's another one to add to the list. Ralph Rangnick's name has come up as well. Those are both in that mix, and the Tottenham job is going to be one of the plum jobs out there as we get ready for next season. One manager who has pulled out of a managerial race, not Tottenham, Crystal Palace, according to Football Insider, Frank Lampard has said no.
Oh.
Lampard has said, and this is according to Football Insider, that he feels like it would be too big of a rebuilding job. He feels like they could get sucked into a relegation battle next year, so he is saying no and has pulled out of the race to become the next Crystal Palace manager. Sean says immediately, Frank Lampard to Tottenham? No, he can't do that, could he? I don't think so. I mean, it's different when you do get fired by your club, and Lampard will always be a Chelsea guy. They did fire him. If he went to Tottenham, you can't really blame him too much.
No.
I don't think he will. I really don't think he will. Sean is freaking out. I don't know who it's going to be, man. I really don't know who it's going to be at this point. I keep saying Maurizio Sarri would be the guy. That would be the one I would go after and give him 3 years to get the ship the way he wants. I think it's the way to go. But I don't think they'll do it.
Just give him one of those ashtrays that runs on the the smokeless ashtray, whatever it was when we were growing up, where it had the engine, and you turn it on and it sucks all of the cigarette smoke into the cigarette into the ashtray. Get him one of those so he can actually stay on the touchline as much as possible.
Sure.
Either that or get an amazing sponsorship for cigarettes. I don't know what. I still think, Sadi at Charlotte FC would be amazing because then that sponsorship would build itself.
It would. He needs to go to Tottenham. That would be the most fascinating one for me. One more on Kane. It has been rumored by Football Insider that Manchester United are willing to offer Anthony Martial and Jesse Lingard in part exchange to bring Harry Kane to Old Trafford. That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Because it was what? Gabriel Jesus was what we were seeing as the make-weight from a Manchester City perspective?
Allegedly, yes. Not bad.
Yeah.
Other news and rumors. We got about 10 minutes before we get Niko Moreno on the line and talk Seattle and Atlanta. Sergio Aguero, according to AS, is expected to arrive in Barcelona soon. He would be paid around €5 million per season. That is a 58.3% reduction in salary compared to what he's getting at Manchester City, which isn't really a surprise. I mean, where he is in his career, what Barcelona has to offer, that feels about right. I think he'll be okay. I think he can find a way to live on €5 million per season. I don't think he's going to be, really struggling to, avoid eating ramen noodles. I think Aguero's going to be okay. But if that happens, that would seem to be the telltale sign that Lionel Messi will be back at Barcelona. If Aguero goes there, Messi will be there. I just don't see any other way that happens. One of the other names to keep an eye on managerial-wise is Gennaro Gattuso. And he's linked to every place. He's linked to Juventus. He's linked to Fiorentina. He's linked everywhere. I think he's been linked to Lazio if Inzaghi leaves. The other bit of news coming out of Italy that is if Gattuso leaves Napoli because of his relationship with the owner, De Laurentiis, Lorenzo Insigne, the captain of the club, could leave as well. And that would be absolutely gutting to Napoli. All ADL is a little nuts. He's succeeded in having Sarri leave in a kind of ugly manner, Carlo Ancelotti leaving in kind of an ugly manner, and now he could have Gennaro Gattuso leaving in an ugly manner. That's a problem. That's a problem with the guy who owns the team and cuts the checks and got mad when Ancelotti was there because results were bad and wanted to send the team basically to their rooms without supper and make them go to some like forced training camp. And the players were like, nah, dude, no. And then Ancelotti got in trouble and went back and forth. And Carlo's like, yeah, I'm out. This is ridiculous. I don't know who they get next if that's the case. Andrea Pirlo did win a trophy yesterday. The Coppa Italia final. Federico Chiesa, beautiful finish if you haven't seen it. 2-1 game over Atalanta. There were 4,300 people at Sassuolo Stadium for this, and it was the first high-profile game in Italy to be played in front of supporters for more than a year. So that's a big, very important element to the backdrop to that happening. I don't know if this trophy is going to be enough for Pirlo. I don't know if even somehow winning and getting the help that they need to qualify for Champions League next year is going to be enough for Pirlo. But he does get a little something for the effort, Andrea Pirlo. Inter Milan could be partially sold to Oak Tree Capital Group, a $336 million deal. They are a U.S. fund buying about 30% of Inter. We know Inter's basically broke. Inter has asked players to defer payments. They have 283 million euro of bonds due in 2022, and this would basically make them whole. I mean, it'd be 30%. It could lead to more because Suning, the Chinese ownership, is not in a good position in general. I would think this is step one to eventually a full sale from Suning.
Yeah. And knowing the general discontent of having them around, to me that does sound like it's step one. And if seriously, if that 283 makes you whole and gets you that much closer, and it's a step in that direction, I don't think that if you're a fan that this couldn't happen quickly enough when it comes to all of the. You have all of the proposed salary cuts. Hey guys, we need you to defer for a little while. And that gets incredibly tiring if you're, making a living and, even not like the stars, but the guys that are further down on the roster, the ones that aren't making, serious bank, and you're having to continually be asked by your owners, can you take a deferral? It's like the wimpy and the hamburger bit, we'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today or something. So it's just a bad scene. And if this is stage one, let it happen, get them gone.
Yeah, it's a problem. We talked about player swaps before when it comes to Harry Kane. How about this one that's been reported in Spain? Antoine Griezmann back to Atleti, for Joao Felix. He hasn't fit in Atleti at all.
No.
Jorge Mendes is Joao Felix's agent. He could make this happen. They paid about the same amounts for the two players between Barcelona and Atleti. The one thing that people have pointed out that I think is valid is Griezmann's best position is where Lionel Messi plays. And he's not going to play there because Lionel Messi is going to play there.
Yeah.
Joao Felix's best position is where Lionel Messi plays. So can he adapt better would be the question. Reportedly, in Mundo Deportivo have already put this out there that if Griezmann is going to stay at Barca, he's going to have to take a lower salary, or they're going to try to move him on. This is a fascinating one because neither one has exactly worked out where they are. Maybe a change of scenery works for both of them. I think it definitely helps Griezmann. I don't know if it breaks Joao Felix out. Although it'd be a lot of fun to see potentially Messi, Joao Felix, and Aguero together.
Yes.
Along with Ansu Fati if he can get back healthy.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun team to watch.
And anybody else that can be brought in on a free, Memphis Depay, I think, was a part of the discussion.
He's been linked for a while, but that's only going to be if Ronald Koeman is there, and that might not be the case.
Yeah.
That is not definite yet. So,
okay, so your gut, does Coleman stay or is he gone?
I think he's gone.
I think so too.
I think he's gone. I think Joan Laporta is going to want to move on with his own people. I think he's going to want his own decision there. And I think it's Xavi. I mean, the Hansi Flick thing keeps getting thrown around, although all the reporting out of Germany is that it's a done deal. It just hasn't been done yet with him to take over the German national team job. I think Koeman's gone. I think Xavi's the guy. It should be Xavi. I think it's kind of silly at this point to think you're going to do something else and be better off. Xavi knows the club. He knows what needs to be done. He knows what's worked in the past. He's the hire. He's got enough experience. He's got more experience than some previous guys did who did well there. He's the right guy. They need to go ahead and move on and make that happen. And Koeman, in some ways is being treated unfairly because he did well this year. He did win the Copa del Rey. He did fall apart at the end when the title was there for the taking.
Yep.
And he wasn't ever really anybody's favorite choice. So I think that's going to end up costing him his job, unfortunately. So Xavi should be the guy. I think he will. I think Laporta will go in that direction. It feels like the other stuff is misdirection. But we'll keep you posted on that one. We've got a couple minutes before we get with Niko on Seattle. We talked about it on the 2's review last night. Anything else from last night with the 2's and their 5-0 win over Tulsa that jumps out to you this morning?
Well, I mean, it was good to see, and I think that when you get a home opener like this, and you can make this kind of a statement coming out of the blocks. I mean, it's like, we talked about it in the Open where the first 3 matches you got one in each column. Then you come home and you seemed like you confused FC Tulsa at times. They didn't know how to react when you were switching up your ideas. And you had guys, once, we talk about it. It's like guys from different places in their careers making impacts, whether it was a college grad or, whether it was academy or what have you. And just the variety of the impact last night from the directions in their careers to me is what just continues to stand out for me.
Yeah, it was great to see somebody like Chris Allen, who we've talked to this week, Aiden McFadden, involved in the first 3 goals. Tyler Wolff needed that goal, back-to-back games for him. And then a couple of the academy players, and Coleman Gannon and Will Riley, combining for goal number 5. The 2's closed it out well, too, and that's always been an issue where they have had a good half or they've had a good sequence or they've had a good 30 minutes. They haven't been able to put together a complete shellacking like they did last night. It's a credit to the work Tony Annan's put in. It's a credit to this group of players who I think are really hungry. And it's an interesting mix of personalities that really works together well. Really good group. Really good group. Good performance last night. Took them a little while to get on the same page, which is to be expected with so many different faces. I mean, that's the nature of a second team. You're going to have guys drift in and out. You're going to have first-team guys who need minutes. You saw that last night. You're going to have guys under contract there trying to prove themselves. You saw that last night. You're going to have academy guys who get an opportunity and a door cracked open for them, and you saw that last night. That's the nature of a second team. And last night, which showed you how important it can be with guys building confidence, with guys who are still getting their first steps in their pro career. Somebody like Connor Stanley was outstanding last night without getting a goal. He's on loan from Manchester United's academy. He's only had a couple games really at any kind of a senior level now with the 2's, and he's performed incredibly well. So we'll talk more 2's. We'll talk more after we get with Niko Moreno, and we will get him on the line right now, thanks to Mateo. So we can talk Atlanta and Seattle. Niko is on Twitter, El Rolo NW, and you can follow him as well at Pulso Sports. Great outlet covering the game in the Pacific Northwest. He also writes for Sounder at Heart as well. And it's an early call for you, Niko, but we appreciate your time.
Hey, how you guys doing? How's everybody doing over there in the east side? Are you guys hearing me?
I
hear you guys a little bit low.
Yeah, we got you. We can hear you okay.
Perfect. Excellent, guys. To be here, as I always am. Lots to talk about. I was glad to see a couple of the things I said last week kind of come through for me with Atlanta and Marcelino Moreno. So I'm just excited to get back on here with you
guys. Let's talk first about the Seattle side of things. I mean, it's another win that we keep kind of waiting to see, is this for real? Because I had questions, just like you did before the season, about the Sounders and could they sustain it, and how is it going to look with two up top, and what about Jordan Morris's absence? They did it again, and they are the best team in the league right now.
It's as real as it gets, guys. It is as real as it gets. This team is for real. This team has completely annihilated the early doubters, as myself. Everything we had said, everything we had predicted, the slow starts, the difficulties into a new formation, guys. It was week after week after week, regardless of who's on the field. I mean, look at the game that we just went through. I mean, it was Cleveland. It was a young keeper, Stephen Fry out. Thankfully, we heard this week that it's only going to be 4 to 6 weeks, just a knee sprain, nothing that had to do with ligaments. So fantastic news for this Seattle Sounders team. But even with a young gun at goal, even against a very good, potentially LAFC team, because, we're going to talk about that because we've talked about it in the past. Bob Bradley tries to do a couple of things to perhaps change the way he typically plays and confuse the Sounders, yet the team's able to understand what's going on. They are able to go back to the style of play, and they just win the game. I mean, what we're seeing out of Christian Roldan is MVP caliber. Mm-hmm. What we're seeing out of Brian Smetzer and the way he's handling the rotations, the ability to make adjustments in second halves, has to put him in conversations for Coach of the Year. And that's something that you don't ever hear about when it comes to Brian Smetzer. People always doubt that he's not a tactician, that he's just a player's coach. But this year, guys, there is no looking away from what Brian Smetzer is doing. There's no Nicolas Lodero. Once again, this week, another thing that kind of came up that perhaps not as good is that Nicolas Lodero is going to be out for another month. Before, last year, the year before that, you'd be thinking, man, this team is really going to regress. But they haven't. They look just as good. It doesn't matter who Brian Smetzer brings into that midfield. It's a cohesive unit. There is a build-up play. The second goal, it's fantastic in the way Danny Leyva, another young player, another homegrown, steals the ball, drops it outside. Alex Roldan, with all the confidence in the world, just starts making plays, makes the good run. Will Bruin makes a run into the first post and opens up the space for Brad Smith to come behind him. I mean, everything about this team is just fantastic. Yes, it hasn't been 90 minutes, but it's been consistent throughout the game in various portions of it. So it's incredible. The defenders, I mean, someone tweeted me, what is Brian Smetzer feeding the center backs? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we hear about Nuhu and teriyaki chicken. Maybe that's the secret. I mean, I don't know.
Wait a minute, Nico. I got to hear this story.
Rewind on this.
I don't know this one. We're over here on the East Coast. What's up with Nuhu and teriyaki chicken?
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. No.
I got to hear this story.
Yes, okay. No, Nuhu, he's very active in his Instagram, and, he has a very different way of doing his Instagram and digital Sounders as well. They do a great job of getting all the players involved. And after a game, because of everything he puts about teriyaki chicken in his social media, I believe they ask him, hey, what are you going to do after the win? And he's like, I'm going to get teriyaki chicken with extra meat today for sure. So that's his favorite dish. That everybody who follows him on social media knows that's his favorite dish. And after the video, it just kind of blew up everywhere. that it's all about teriyaki chicken. Now it's part of post game shows. I mean, post game talks by Brian Smetzer talk about teriyaki chicken. I mean, a lot of the guys are kind of taking to it with the teriyaki chicken, so he just kind of took off. It's hilarious. So that's kind of why I brought it up. I kind of thought you guys knew about it, but that's a good
No,
point.
that's awesome.
It's a thing on the West Coast. It's a thing here.
All right, so let's get into Teriyaki Chicken FC a little bit, and
That's right. I like that.
With power rankings being what they are, and obviously, TCFC, you guys, you're number one. Teriyaki Chicken FC. I just made that abbreviation. So TCFC, we know you're number one. All right. So how is it that LAFC is higher in a power ranking than they are in the Western Conference?
I'm not sure. I guess it is something close to what they were thinking early, or their potential, because they still got a lot of potential. Carlos Vela still hasn't played enough minutes to really, I guess, judge the team in that sense. Diego Rossi looks like he's still trying to figure out how to get back into the season rhythm, because he has disappeared constantly. So I'm not really sure. I wouldn't have them as high as they have them, to be quite frank, just because of all the issues they're showing once again defensively, despite the good signings, despite what potential they may have. There is no way around what the results have been. They just have not been good. Bob Bradley has tried various combinations in personnel. In like I said, against Seattle, he tried to change the tactics, and just nothing has worked. So I'm not sure why they have him so high. I think that there is no way around thinking that this team is in trouble. I think they'll figure it out. I think once Vela and Rossi really get it going, they will be better. But at this point in time, I don't know why they're so high in the power rankings.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what happens with them. I'm curious to see who steps up in the West to challenge the Sounders, just because, one of my biggest concerns watching Seattle over the years, and they've proven it wrong, I think, pretty consistently, but you go back to 2019, they were one of the worst defensive teams to make a final. MLS, when you really get down and you look at who gets the MLS Cup, who survives the gauntlet of the postseason, because it separates teams. It's a different kind of league. Like the flow is different because of those playoffs. Good defensive teams get to the final. And the Seattle team in 19, I'm like, they're not good enough defensively. They kept finding a way. Now, this is a good defensive team. And to be able to do it in at least one game without Stephen Fry, what is the weakness of the Sounders? Do they have one defensively? How can a team like Atlanta, get in and threaten Seattle and threaten their defense?
Wow, that this is why I love coming on here, because you guys really hit the good questions. I haven't even really thought about that, because they've been so good. Everybody's been praising them as they should, because they have been. So what is the weakness of this team? I think you got to go back to the first 65 minutes of that Portland game.
Okay.
That Seattle was fortunate to have not conceded a goal, and you had the whole Valeri situation, and they're able to just get it back, right? So I think is high pressure. Once they get high pressure, because they have three in the back and they try to build out of the back constantly, if they pressure them consistently and in the right way, it can create for mistakes. We saw a couple of moments, even in the LAFC game, where there was issues coming out of the back at times. So a high-pressing team can definitely hurt them. A team that starts off strong, immediate, that in the first 45, 50 minutes perhaps are able to get a goal on them, I think that would be a way to beat the Seattle team. And although Stephen Cleveland did great, and Cleveland, it's obviously a good young player, and for everything I've heard from other players, they have a lot of confidence in the kid. Mm-hmm. He's still young. So I think that could be a weakness of this team, whether it is on set pieces or whether it is with mid-range shots or testing this kid. It could be one of the weaknesses of the team. But aside from that, and this is me stretching it, it's hard to come up with one just because they've been so good, so consistent. I mean, Brian Spencer literally told, not Bob Bradley, but Bob Bradley and the league to just stop coming at New. Direct play to New who's got to stop because it's at dead end. Literally, Brian Spencer works because it's been so good. So they've tried to go direct. They've tried to stretch the team out, and none of it has worked. I mean, in Seattle, they've been simply fantastic. They've been so good. So I just don't see a lot of weaknesses. But if there were some, it'd be that pressure in the team as they come out of the back. Obviously, now not having Stephen Fry, that becomes a weakness. But other than that, I mean, it's hard to really come up with one.
See, it's interesting because a couple of the things that you say are things that Atlanta United does. The high pressure, especially after losing possession, that counter press, that's something that we saw more of in the match against Montreal. It's something that Gabriel Heinze's teams have kind of been, had as a staple that I think the early crowded schedule made difficult for Atlanta United at times. So that will be a very interesting battle with Seattle trying to build out of the back, Atlanta pressing. The other element for me about Seattle is how do they hurt teams? If you had to boil it down to what do the Sounders do well in their attack, how can they punish opponents, and how have they done that this season?
Quick transition. It's a simple answer. Quick transition. That is what they've done well, their ability to just understand the system, understand the runs that every player makes, their IQ as they transition, in the quick thinking. It's been, for me, the key to this team. It's not the only way they can beat you, but that's the most effective, I think. They're gonna start out wide always. Obviously, it's all about Alex Jordan and Brad Smith, but it's a quick transition. If you lose the ball, whether it is in the attacking third even or in midfield, you have to be ready to defend, and that's something that a lot of teams struggle with, and it's something that teams are not ready for. And if you look at, like I said, the second goal is perfectly the best example of this against LAFC. And it's just that quick transition, their ability to just make decisions immediately, quick passes. There are times where Christian Roldan, in other transition moments, he doesn't even look about where he's going, of who's there. He just expects somebody to be there because that's just the way they're built to play this season, right? So that transition is just hard to maintain. So I would say transition, it's definitely the most lethal weapon for this team to beat teams.
So then, Niko, let me ask you this. With the hot start that Seattle has had this season, I mean, for those of us that are outside the Pacific Northwest, I think a lot of MLS fans are used to that zombie Sounders start where they just kind of, they're prodding and they're plotting their way through the first quarter, the first half of the year, and then they come from lane 8 and then they, charge into the playoffs and make that deep run and make it toward the last game of the year. What do the fans think about this hot start? Because of how things have been in the past, are they waiting for that shoe to drop to come back to earth a little bit? Or are they just riding this and sitting there saying, okay, this isn't what we're used to seeing pretty much. We're just going to ride this and let this go. What's the response been so far to the hot start?
No, they're riding with it. They're hoping this is a new identity of the team. Everybody is loving the hot start, and every analyst around MLS is starting to praise this team when they haven't because of those low starts. I'm not opposed to it. I think that if a season is long and a season gives you the ability to save your players and really get going at a certain part of the season, it's all good and well. As long as you're putting up results, and the Sounders have done that, I mean, that's okay. But this team has been so dominant that now guys who weren't looking at Christian Roldan now are putting him for an MVP. And now we're talking about Brian Spencer for Coach of the Year. So the fans are loving it. They're enjoying this. They are feeling like sky's the limit, and as they should, because of everything going on around this team. I don't want to sound repetitive, but the fact that Lodero is going to be out for a month, we're not thinking his team's going to progress is crazy. The fact that Jordan Morris, we still don't know if he's going to be out for the year or not. But you think that you're still not depending on him. There's the summer window that's coming up where Seattle does a lot of excellent signings. Nicolas Lodero obviously is going to be back. Stephen Fry's obviously going to be back. So there is no way to think that this team's not going to get better than they are now. It's been about understanding the formation, the identity, the group, the cohesiveness, and now you bring in those players. I mean, there is no way that anybody can tell me, hey, this team's going to do this. Could it happen? This is soccer. I mean, that's what we watch the games. Anything can happen. But when you look at it firsthand and you go deep into what these players can do and what they have done, I mean, I don't see them coming down. So the fans love it, and I don't see that just happening. I really don't. I don't see this team degressing at any point in the season.
One of the spots that I thought might be a weakness, and I think it was last season, but it's changed, is Alex Roldan at right back or right wing back. Now that it's three in the back, three center backs. What have you seen in Alex? I know we talk about Christian all the time, and I agree. He's having an MVP kind of season. This is the best Christian Roldan that we've seen. But what is it about Alex that has made this team work so well? It feels like he's not getting the love that he should because his performances have been outstanding.
He's starting to, and I'm glad. And thank you for asking me this question because I have taken some serious for Alex Roldan in the past. Not that I mind, because I don't mind people telling me, hey, because just saying that because he's Christian's brother or X, C, or Y. I mean, I don't mind it. But when you see this kid on the field, you knew that he was going to be a player. And I've always said that there are things that you cannot teach, and that's work ethic, effort, and soccer IQ. And this kid has it all. And I can call him a kid, but he's just a young player that ever since he came from Seattle, you knew he had those qualities. They've tried him in different positions, up in midfield, at winger, and he never said, oh, I don't want to play that. He was just, okay, let's do it. Let's get ready to go. And as a right back, his ability to put fantastic balls into the box, his service is such a high quality that it just seemed like a match made in heaven. Did he have some issues defensively? Sure he did. Did he perhaps needed time to, grow into this right back role because he started as a right back role? There was no wing back, in 2019. But I felt like he was coming, and I'm so happy that it has. And something that I asked Christian this week was what he thought about his brother not living under his shadow. I mean, if you talk to Alex Roldan, you followed him on a day-to-day, you saw him in practice, he has a swag about himself that he's not about Christian. He's about Alex. Even when he's getting criticized, even when he used to get criticized, even when he wasn't having a all-star call-up type of season, because he's having it, he had that swag, that confidence, that ability to say, hey, I'm Alex. I'm not Christian. And he's done it, man. He's absolutely done it. It's wonderful to see. And I only see him getting better. He's getting call-ups for the Guatemalan national team. I think he will do that eventually, so that's going to help him as well because he gives you a whole other level of play. So Alex has been fantastic. I just see the high quality of service. I see a very athletic kid, someone who has that work ethic, someone who has that soccer IQ that just comes out of the Roldan family. I mean, man, I'm excited to see their kids. I mean, this is just going to be a whole trio of fantastic players because that's just the way they're built. I mean, it's incredible. Honestly, I'm just excited for him. And like I said, for somebody who's always believed in Alex Roldan as an individual, not just, because he's Christian's brother, but because of what you saw in the training field every day, it's fantastic to see. And ironically, when Siggy Smith was here, me and him would have arguments about why Christian wasn't playing enough because you see it on the training field, right? So it's just, I see it all over. So I don't expect expect him to digress either. I expect him to just continue to get better and continue to improve, and maybe he'll go to make a fantastic career away from the Sounders at some point, because he's getting a lot of looks at this moment. I mean, you see his service, you see his ability to get forward, and it's great. That run that he makes in the second goal is just smart. And again, that confidence, that swag. Your goal scorer is on the top of the box, and Raul Ruiz, he has the ball, and he has the confidence to say, hey, I'm right here. I'm over here. He calls for that ball. Raul gives it right back to him, so he has that confidence, that swag. I love it. I think he's going to be a great player from here on out.
When it comes to the team so far this year, I mean, they've been doing it without Nico Ladero. It's been Rui Diaz. And when it comes to all of the effort that has been put into the success to this point of the season, I know that we all are focused on the shiny objects, and we can sit there and say, okay, well, we look at the scores, we look at the keeper. Who has been the most underrated or under-recognized player for Seattle that has contributed the most to their success this early in the year, you think?
Underrated because he's not in the headlines, because they're not talking about him at all. I'd have to go with Will Bruin. Will Bruin probably has taken the least shots in this amount of games in his career, but he has been fundamental for the team. His ability to open up space as he does, just have that quick touch to open up, whether it is Brad Smith coming in the flank, or whether it is Raul Ruiz kind of switching sides with him. He has been excellent. And I keep hearing people wondering about why Montero's not in, because Montero, every time he comes in off the bench, scores. It's not that simple. When you have this formation and you have a guy like Will Bruin that is a veteran, that is got the size to play the hold-up play, that is as he's not selfish. That unselfishness to just be able to make and create those runs and do the dirty work has been key for this team. So if we're talking about underrated, and someone that nobody's talking about, and the people who are not watching this team and are not into the strategy and how certain players play off the ball and how that off the ball run makes space for others, that you're not seeing it. So I have to go with Will Bruin. He's been great. I know he wants to do more, because I know the Bear. He loves to score. He loves to also, show up in the stats. But I know that he's going to do the work no matter what. He's going to work hard every day. He's going to work hard against every center back. He's going to put pressure on them. He's going to be physical. He's going to open up his team. So I have to go with Will Bruin.
That's such an underrated part of when a manager decides to go two up top. If you just play two guys who are the same, two out-and-out goal scorers who just do the same things, it's redundant. Somebody has to put in the work, and Bruin is criminally underrated in this league. He has been for a long time. He's the perfect kind of partner that if you don't have Jordan Morris to stretch the field wide, you need somebody to be able to facilitate in a different way. And it feels like Will Bruin has become that kind of player at this point in his career.
He really has. And look, I'm not knocking on Freddie Montero. When I broke the news of Freddie coming back, I was very excited. And I've always said a finisher is a finisher. It's kind of like an NBA player with a good jumper. He can have a good jumper until he's 45. I mean, Ray Allen right now probably could come into the league and score you 12 points just out of that perimeter shot alone, right? So with finisher, in soccer is the exact same way. When you're a finisher, you can finish at any moment. He's done it well. He's coming off the bench. That's great. I love to see that. But Will Bruin does more for you because of everything he does and his physical ability. And on top of that, now that Raul Ruiz is going to be called up to a Peruvian national team to play Copa America, now you could bring in Freddie Montero. And once again, just like you just said it perfectly, you have two players that play differently, that they complement each other, but you don't want to see two of the same player in that two forward formation. You just don't.
Right. Montero and Ruiz don't really fit as well together. Bruin with one of them makes it work.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm ready to see that. That's another part of this whole thing that's so magical, guys. I mean, honestly, we were looking at Freddie Montero, who's making the lowest salary possible in MLS. 81,000. We just saw that, and you got Kellen Rowe, who came in and is also low budget, and nobody thought that they were going to be impactful players, and now they're coming in and they're producing for this team, and that's what's so great about what the Sounders, Garth Lagerway, and obviously Brian Smetzer and his entire group of coaches have done is just bringing in players who fit what they need the formation to give you. So it's fantastic to see, honestly.
When it comes to young guys making impacts for Seattle this year, obviously when you've got a keeper that has to do it out of necessity, that's one thing. But when you have a guy like Josh Atencio, who's a part and parcel to the early part of the success, what's it been like to see someone step in and not be intimidated by his surroundings? I know he's got a bit of a knock right now, but what's it been like early returns on seeing somebody like Atencio?
It's fantastic. It's what the Sounders have been trying to do for a long time. It's been a work in progress within the Tacoma Defiance and the Sounders Academy, and progress to just continue to bring out players. It's self-sustained. And yes, Atencio has been great, and he looked excellent, and he has a knock, and he's not playing right now, but that ability to just bring out players that can live up to the moment is something that Seattle has done. And I expect big things from Atencio. He's going to have a hard time getting on the field because of how things are going right now, how well they're playing, and Niko potentially coming back. And now Danny Leva gets a bit of time. He looked good. Brian was very happy with his performance. But I think that the real story here, guys, is how Seattle has done it. They're at the top of the MLS. They're the best team in the MLS. They've done it by also playing their homegrown players, right? So you said Danny Leva, he was impactful. You got Doubler on the bench, and then they bring a kid like Reed Baker at the end of the game, who he's an academy guy, and they're giving these kids playtime to continue to grow, continue to develop. And this is something that Seattle had not really done in the past, or they tried to do, but they didn't do consistently. Last year, they didn't do it at all, and I was very critical of it at one point in time. Even had Waller ended up leaving and going to Nashville because he didn't want to be in Seattle. He asked to move. He asked for a transfer because of the lack of playtime, and now Seattle has done that wonderfully. So they're just doing everything right, and I think that's the real story here. Not just Atencio, because he has been fantastic, and I expect big things from him, but it's just the ability to just get all your young players some good time, and it's been great.
So we've quizzed you on Seattle, and I hope Atlanta United fans have a little bit deeper, understanding of the challenge that Sunday will bring for Atlanta United. When you look at Atlanta from your point of view, what are the things that you think Atlanta does well that can give Seattle problems, and what are the things that you think Seattle can exploit in Atlanta United?
Well, Atlanta, you said it earlier today, and I think that's accurate, is that Heinze is going to press high. Heinze is going to bring numbers forward, sometimes a little too much, but I think that can maybe I don't know if this term is in English, but you could anchor the wing backs, or you make them play defensively so they don't have that ability to just push forward with ease. Yeah. So I think that Atlanta can do that. In Spanish, we say you anchor those players so they don't come up to you, they don't attack you, you don't give them that ability to do. I think Bello has looked excellent for Atlanta United in his ability to bring in services. A lot of the things that Alex Jordan has done, Bello has been doing. Mm-hmm. So I think that because of that threat of Atlanta getting wide on you and attacking those flanks, you can slow down Seattle's attack, right? So I think that'll work. Obviously, the ability to have a guy like Niko Moreno, that to me, I know that he came in as a DP and perhaps wasn't working, but I see a lot of great things out of him. Once he starts to continue to get that confidence and continue to play the way he has, he can get in between those spaces that Seattle sometimes leaves open in between the three men in the middle, and the 3-man back line. I think there are spaces that get open at times. What we were just talking about what Portland did, I think Atlanta can replicate with the type of players that they have. Now, another part of it is Joseph Martinez. I'm starting to see him progressively get a little better. He's not Jose Martinez of before yet, but he's starting to be more aggressive, starting to be a little bit more defiant. He gets close. He's challenging up top. I think that he could create some havoc with his ability to move in space in this three-man back line. I don't think they're going to go right at this center backs. I don't see Hainsey doing that. I think they're going to do a lot of movement. So in that ability, Atlanta can influence Seattle. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't expect this to be an easy game for Seattle in any way. I really don't. I think that Hayes is going to come in here after getting a very good win over a good Montreal Impact team that also has a very good midfield, and they were able to break that down. Obviously, they're not going to have 40,000 fans backing them up, which I thought was big this weekend for Atlanta. But I think that's what Atlanta's going to be able to do. On the other side, we just talked about it. I think that Seattle will be working in transition. I do feel like at times Ibarra and Sosa don't communicate as well. And specifically Ibarra, I feel like he gets a little lazy sometimes coming back in transition. And if you do that against Seattle, it will make you pay. If you are not immediately backing up and making a 30-yard sprint when the ball turns around, you're going to get in trouble. So it's going to be a very good game. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a good battle. But these are some of the things that I'm seeing early just looking at the paper.
Sorry, John, real fast, Niko. What's the phrase in Spanish for anchoring? I think we use it in English a lot of times. I'll either say that because Atlanta stretches the field so wide, the wingers will try to pin the outside backs or the wing backs back, or
word.
Fix them back. What phrase do you typically use?
We use anchor. No, los anclas. You pin them back. You anchor those like a boat would anchor. That's basically the word that we use, or I like to use often. But you would pin those players back by doing that. So it's going to be an interesting battle because a lot of the good things that I see from Atlanta and that I've been seeing in small spells, you see from the Sounders. And interestingly enough, we get sometimes 45 early good minutes from Atlanta, and you get 45 late minutes from Seattle. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out in this specific game, right? Because if Atlanta can maybe get ahead early in the first 45 and really make Seattle uncomfortable, can they hold the way they held against Montreal? And can Seattle find ways, obviously, to just continue to build in that second half, right? So I would expect Brian's message this week to be, we got to get started right away. And we got to be careful with, Lopez and Martinez and Moreno pressing up high, because that's what you're going to do. That's how Minnesota made them uncomfortable in game one. That's how Portland made them uncomfortable in that game at Providence Park. And that's what I think Atlanta's going to want to do this time around. And I'm thinking that Brian will be ready for that. But it's not easy. One thing is being prepared for it, and a whole other thing is executing it. It's not easy. So it'll be interesting for sure.
You mentioned the 40,000 that were here in Atlanta for Atlanta United and CF Montreal. What's the current capacity situation there in the state of Washington when it comes to folks getting in the door? What are the percentages right now?
You kind of got me on that one. I know that they just opened up the vaccinated sections for the 300 levels, but I was not at Lumen Field this weekend. I was out of town, so I don't recall that exact capacity. But like I said, they have opened a few more sections for vaccinated fans, and they've opened up restrictions. Now those vaccinated sections won't have to be masked up. Okay. So I'm not really sure, but I'm guessing within the 20,000s or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason I ask, obviously, is because we know what fans can mean here for Atlanta United. We know what fans can mean there for Seattle, and that's why I was wondering what the decibel level was going to be and what folks could anticipate as they're watching this on national television.
No, I think they are impactful. I think they have been ever since they were even less than 10,000 at Lumen Field. And that's why this team hasn't lost. I mean, they have made of this stadium a fortress. And I've always thought that it's difficult for teams to play in this specific artificial field. They do struggle. The ball runs a little bit faster. So above from the fans are fantastic, and they do give this team everything that they need to win games. And the players will tell you, and Brian will tell you, there is a connection unlike anything I've seen in MLS with this fans and this team. So regardless of whether it's 10,000, 11,000, 20,000, they're always going to feed off of that. But also, Lumen Field is a difficult field to play in because of the surface and just kind of the way things play out in Seattle.
I got to ask you before we wrap up with you, Niko. I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch it last night, but it kind of got everybody going. The River Plate situation with Enzo Perez in goal with a bad hamstring and 11 players, and it's being called a miracle today. Just incredible scenes, the whole incredible situation that it even happened.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and you don't see those things often, right? I mean, it's something that just kind of gets you going.
It's just crazy to see. Like, I mean, now if River is not selling the Enzo Perez goalkeeper jersey today, they need to be, because they'll make a killing on that thing. It's just such a crazy, crazy story that, this run of the Libertadores and everything going on in South America right now, and it will impact MLS in some different ways with Copa America, with the World Cup qualifiers, with clubs like we saw it with Minnesota and Fragapane, who they had to wait a little bit longer, with Talleres still in the Sudamericana. Like, what's going on in South America? I think MLS fans have to pay attention to all of this kind of craziness at times to have a true understanding of what could be coming on this side of it in MLS.
Hey, guys, am I back on?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
Did we lose you for a second?
Yes, absolutely. Could you ask me that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
We're talking about Enzo Perez.
Yeah, just all the craziness. All the craziness with what we saw last night and what we're going to see with World Cup qualifiers coming up here very soon, and players are going to get called away for that, and in Copa America. I think it's essential, and you do such a good job of this, and this is where I started following you, is paying attention to everything going on in South America. MLS fans have to follow it, because whether it's going to be a player coming from one of these clubs, like Minnesota and Fragapane, who's just arriving from Talleres, whether it's players getting called up to national teams for this crazy run of games they're about to have, it's essential, because these two kind of North and South America are all blending into one now at the club level.
No, absolutely, and I certainly appreciate that. Thank you. I do take pride in it, and yes, it is interesting to see how Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana and all of these leagues are played a little bit differently, and this situation was interesting to see Enzo. And I'm a huge Enzo Perez guy. I always have been. It was great to see him in goal. But one of the main things here also is to just kind of see how good MLS has done in keeping players protected from the coronavirus. Yep. I mean, I don't know if you mentioned this already when my phone call came off, but reason why Enzo Perez was in was because of a outbreak of coronavirus. So it's something that happens in South America, unfortunately. And MLS has done excellent at keeping that away from the league and players, keeping players safe, not just at the beginning of the pandemic, but now still. So it's interesting to see, but it is fun. And we just had, I don't know, 10 minutes, if that, of an Alex Roldan keeper, and now we see Enzo Perez on goal for a lot longer than that. So it's always fun to see this type of situations kind of play out in South America.
When when you're looking at, when we talked about the match in general, what other matches are you looking at this weekend when it comes to outside of Atlanta and Seattle? What else is on your sheet that you're going to be paying attention to this weekend?
This weekend, I mean, aside from that,
you got Timbers and LAG with so you've got that one that you can look at. Also out west, it's Dallas and Real Salt Lake. San Jose and Sporting is out there as well. LAFC in Colorado to make it a very busy day leading up to Seattle and Atlanta. So you could be locked in front of the TV all day.
Do I have to give you a West conference?
No, not at all. Not
okay,
at all.
Good. Because I'm interested in this New York City Columbus, guys. Because one of the very few things that I think I got right early with you guys was talking about how good New York was going to be. They were one of my contenders, and they have looked great with Medina and Castellanos and just how this whole thing is starting to play. And I want to see that fight against Columbus, although they're not the team from last season. They still have the talent. So I kind of want to see the way that game plays out. I'm very interested in that. And that Portland LA Galaxy game as well, guys. Because I continue to think that the LA Galaxy, I'm not sold on them, guys. I know that they just won 2-0, and Chicharito continues to score regardless of missing PKs. Everything you want, and Greg Vanney's an excellent guy to follow, and a lot of these young players are starting to really come through for LA, but I'm still not sold on them. So I want to see them play a difficult Portland team that now can focus completely in the domestic play in MLS, away from CCL. Also a very good coach team. So that Savarese against Greg Vanney matchup, very interesting to me. So those are a couple of the games that I think will be interesting to watch.
I'll throw Nashville and Austin into the mix because Austin's been a fun team to watch, and Nashville's actually been a really fun team to watch this year. That could be a good one at the end of the day on Sunday after all the wildness with Seattle and Atlanta. We'll probably skip that DC-Philly game. I don't think that's going to be too exciting. Nashville-Austin will be a nice nightcap.
No, yeah, that's a good one, especially after, losing to LA. How could they bounce back from that? And being in that position against another expansion team. And Nashville they have not been as fun as last season, in my opinion. I'm not sure exactly what changed. But they just have not been as interesting to watch as they were last year. They still have a lot of the play in terms of they're hard to break down in the back. Obviously, anytime you got Zimmerman in the back, it's always difficult. And Godoy in midfield kind of just breaking things down. But I don't know what happened to the team that was a little bit more concrete and elite in the final third. I think that's what they're really missing. I feel like they get there. They just have not had the scoring ability as they did last year. And I think that's really what they're missing. So it'll be interesting how that works against Austin. That perhaps is not the most solid team in the back. So it'll be fun to watch. I've been really disappointed with Cadiz this season. I was huge on him big when he came on. And he's been really inconsistent this season. So I want to see that get better because I feel like he would give this Nashville team what they're missing. Because Baji is a good player. I'm not saying that he's not. And so is Sapong. But I don't know if they're that, 18, 19 goal scoring, attacker at the end of the season. And I thought Cadiz was, but he just hasn't played to that potential.
Yeah, I agree. He's been lacking. I think Hani Mukhtar's been a little more quiet this season.
That's another good one, absolutely.
It just hasn't quite happened for them centrally. It's been good, and they're getting goals, and they're getting a little more goals than before. But some of the players that you counted on are not doing it. It's other guys stepping up. And the young Uruguayan as well, Pinheiro, I want to see if he can come good. I mean, he's still young. There's plenty of time, but Nashville.
No, but you're absolutely right. I thought he was going to get played right away.
I expected it.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten play time. He hasn't even gotten the 18. I should make an effort next week to be on the call with Gary Smith and ask about what he needs to see out of Pinheiros because it is interesting that he has got no play time.
Well, we'll get a chance to see Nashville next week. It's a tough 2 games for Atlanta, going to Seattle, coming back home for Nashville before the international break, where I think some players will get called up. We'll wait and see what that looks like. This is I've kind of called it here in Atlanta, Niko. I've called this a measuring stick for Atlanta. I think some people maybe put more importance on it. It's early in the season. This is the biggest test Atlanta has had, going on the road to play a team in great form. I think we'll have a good sense after it where the project, the Gabriel Heinze project, is at this stage. It's not complete. I don't think it'll be complete at the end of the match against Seattle, but we'll know kind of where they stand and what needs to improve and where their strengths are.
No, I think you're absolutely right. This is the type of high bar match that the team needs to perhaps push through. I feel like this Montreal win was already a step in the right direction. And I feel like you saw that from the player, from Marcelino after he scored, that ability to just kind of push through at the end. But I think you're absolutely right. Once this game is over, we're going to be able to really tell a lot more things from this Atlanta team. But as I said, and I'll continue to be with that, it's a work in progress, and it's going in the right direction. I think Haynes is the right guy for the job, and I think this is going to work out, and it's going to be a fun matchup in Seattle. I can guarantee you that. So we'll make a lot of their conversation next week going to be about that.
Yeah. Niko, man, thanks for being so generous with your time this morning. Thanks for getting up early for us. We appreciate it. And enjoy the match on Sunday. We will, from in front of our TV sets, in front of our monitors, calling it from the radio studios. Can't wait till we can actually get out to Seattle and see you, or you make a trip down to Atlanta and see you in person.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Please come on down. Come to taste some of our nice IPAs here in the Northwest. I mean, it's my treat. Looking forward to seeing you guys at some point, whether it's up here or down there. A huge thank you to you guys. A huge good morning and good afternoon, I'm guessing, down there already. For all your audience, I love being on here, guys, and see you guys next week.
Awesome. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Niko.
Be good, Niko.
Bye, guys.
Niko Moreno, make sure you're following him, El Rolo NW on Twitter, and Pulso Sports on Twitter as well. Great coverage of the league, and not just the league, but the whole hemisphere, to be honest. Niko does great work. It's always great catching up with him. All right, we got to talk about the U.S. roster that just dropped for the Switzerland game. This is a training camp roster. It's not a complete picture of what the team will look like, because there's a couple of guys, who are playing in a Champions League final that won't be available here. Sargent, Edike, and Green are on the list, but they might have to withdraw because of playoffs at the club level. There are a few MLS players on the list: Ochoa, Acosta, Jackson Ewell, and Sebastian Lletget. No surprise, Sebastian Lletget's on the roster. He's on every roster for Greg Berhalter. David Ochoa is on the roster as one of the goalkeepers. So Ethan Horvath, likely the starter there. Backline, Brooks, Cannon, Justin Che, who could be in line for a large transfer from Dallas to Bayern Munich, which is very, very interesting. Serginho Dest, Mark McKenzie, Matt Miazga, Tim Ream, Brian Reynolds, Anthony Robinson, and DeAndre Yedlin. Midfielders, Kellen Acosta, Tyler Adams, who was sent home with an injury, probably not going to be part of this group, probably not going to be available for the Nations League semifinals and hopefully final. Julian Green, Sebastian Lletget, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and Jackson Ewell. Forwards, Brendan Aronson, Daryl Dike, Matthew Hoppe, Gio Reyna, Josh Sargent, Jordan Sibachu, and Tim Weah. That is your group for the match May 30th against Switzerland. That's going to be one of the only games that the U.S. will get going into those Nation League semifinals. And again, hopefully final. Semifinal will be against Honduras, where the U.S. will be favored, and they should get through. It won't be an easy match. And it will be as close to an A group as you can have. This is not quite that. Again, there's some players that we know are missing. There's some players that I think will be on this list right now but be pulled. There's some MLS players who I think will make that group for the Nations League semifinal, but they're not going to be available for a May 30th game where a lot of teams are playing on the 29th. So this is, I think, a snapshot, a glimpse, but not the final product for the U.S. this summer in the A games, and that's that Nations League. Gold Cup roster will look different. Gold Cup will be a whole different situation. But this is a good snapshot of where the team is going into the season or going into these games for Greg Berhalter.
Yeah, and there are some names on here. You look at a Jackson Ewell with the hot start that he had so far in MLS. You're hoping that can carry through with national team duty. We know that every roster, Sebastian Lletget. I'm trying to think of a nickname we can just place for Lletget. It's like, check, he's going to be there. He's going to be a part of the process. Lletget, he's got that rhythm that we've seen in national team duty when it comes to the midfielders there. Defenders looking to see, Justin Che, see if he gets what his camp looks like, and does he get any kind of run? And obviously with the forwards up top, you mentioned the guys who won't be around because of possible playoff activity, but then you look at like a Jordan Siebatcheu and guys like that. The ones that I'm looking forward to seeing some of the guys step up and really take charge of these opportunities that they're given going forward.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity. Julian Green back in the group. It's a big opportunity for him if he's not pulled away with playoff games. Let's get back to Justin Che real quick. So the Athletic had an update yesterday. Bayern is in talks to permanently bring him in. He joined on a short-term loan in February. He's 17 years old. He's played 7 times, 5 starts for the reserve team in the 3rd division for Bayern. He's trained with the first team in recent weeks. He's got a German passport, so he can make that move ahead of his 18th birthday in November. According to sources of The Athletic, Dallas is looking for $3 to $4 million in a transfer fee and a sell-on percentage for Che. Signed a homegrown deal last October. He played all of last season at 16 years old with North Texas in USL League One, started all 16 games, was all league at 16 years old. He's legit. And I think now that you've seen multiple defenders, specifically from FC Dallas, go to Europe, and some of them do very well, you can start to ask for more money. And for a younger player like this, you can ask for that money, you can ask for that sell-on fee, and be in a really good position. But Justin Che is another one of these guys that comes from an MLS academy and might jump all the way to Europe before really playing in MLS. That's okay. It's not ideal. I think in a perfect world, you would have seen him play for FC Dallas last year. Or you'd see him play for FC Dallas a little bit this year, even at his young age. If he's ready, he's ready. If Bayern Munich thinks he's ready, well, then okay. They're going to come in, though, and pay on potential. And he's not going to start for Bayern next year. He's probably going to be in the reserves. He could get loaned out, like we've seen. Hoffenheim has been a loan partner for Bayern. You could see something like that. But Che getting this opportunity, it's again, seal of approval for what FC Dallas is doing at the academy level.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. And to your point about what FC Dallas's pedigree is building here, you're getting to that point where, okay, it's like we've continued to send players on into the theater, and you're seeing what we can do, specifically with our defenders. Is it going to end up being more than that couple of $1 million? What's the negotiation going to be like? Are they going to be able to get more? But then you can continue to set your bar higher and higher and higher because of what you're doing with all of your past results. And so this will be another interesting test case financially for FC Dallas and what they can continue to do going forward there too. Yeah,
a couple other guys to keep in mind that could be coming into MLS that have been linked coming out of Mexico. Ventura Alvarado is one who's been linked in the past. I think at one point there was a link to Atlanta United. 28 years old, he joined Atlético San Luis last summer. He played 13 times for them. They are going to mutually terminate his contract. He'll be available on a free. 28, he played for Necaxa. He's played his whole career in Mexico. Yeah, that's a good signing for an MLS club looking for a center back. I don't think that's Atlanta now, but there are clubs who Ventura Alvarado make total sense about bringing in and going to get available on a free. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. And a bigger one that's really interesting, and he was also linked with a move to MLS before he went to Monterrey, is Ake Loba from the Ivory Coast. He's kind of crowded out at Monterrey. This is a team with Funes Mori. This is a team with Janssen. Loba has kind of been the odd man out, and he wants more playing time. He's not guaranteed that with Rayados. Portland, Austin, and Houston are linked to Ake Loba, according to Felipe Galindo of AS Mexico. Now, speaking about Houston, Houston has come up yesterday. Ted Siegel is a real estate developer who is near an agreement, according to Sportico, to buy the Houston Dynamo for $400 million. It would include the Houston Dash. It would not include ownership of the stadium, but it would include the team's business relationship with the stadium. So not ownership, but operating rights, I think, essentially is what it would work to. The stadium is owned by the local stadium authority. That's a fairly common situation. I know Atlanta Fulton County Stadium was under that sort of thing. I think Turner Field was a little different, but somewhat close. Sometimes those are the kinds of ways it has to go down to get stadiums built and to use public monies to do it. So they would be able to do whatever they want at BBVA Stadium, basically, is what it comes down to. So the two teams and the stadium's business relationship. Now, the current ownership, Gabriel Brenner is the majority owner. He's brought in people like Oscar De La Hoya and James Harden. Most of the Dynamo minority owners would remain involved with smaller stakes. Brenner would remain involved with a minority stake. It's not exactly sure what it would look like. One of them would be exiting, Jake Silverstein, who's a Portland-based investor. So there's a lot of minority owners of the Dynamo. Some of them would get bought out. Some would stay on. Brenner would become a minority owner. But Ted Siegel, $400 million to buy the Houston Dynamo. That number shocked a lot of people.
And, once again, you're looking at value of investment and what we've seen over the last handful of years with percentages in Orlando and all of the other purchases that have come down the line where folks are either getting in the door or they're getting franchises on the whole. When you get that kind of money associated with Major League Soccer, once again, you're seeing a sport continue to grow and be a part of the landscape that is accelerating itself past a lot of other sports and getting there to be that number 4 sport here in the country. And folks are understanding the value of being a part of MLS, being a part of the sport in and of itself. I mean, we see it in USL Championship and League One, where you're seeing folks who are getting involved in these franchises, understanding A, what it means on a community level, but B, what it undertakes on a financial level as well. And so when you can get $400 million for the Houston property in MLS and with the NWSL, you're sending out that flare to everybody else. It's like, okay, level of investment here plus growth potential. And I think that that's the other key in all of this, is seeing the growth forward for what we're continuing to see with Major League Soccer. Upwards of 30 to 40% investment on the increase in recent years when folks are getting in the door here. So won't be the last time that we see something like this. But once again, when you see that 400 million marker, that really does sit there and you go, okay, so the league really has been going places and continues to do so financially.
In my opinion, it shows Ted Siegel thinks Houston's a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
Go back to the original run for the Houston Dynamo when they first moved from San Jose, and the team was led by Brian Ching and Dwayne De Rosario. They won 2 MLS Cups, and they were playing at Robertson Stadium on the campus of the University of Houston, and they were drawing really good crowds, and it was energized, and it was exciting to follow the Dynamo. They were a fun team to watch. They had great CONCACAF series with Pachuca. A nice rivalry with the two of them developed. Houston was hot, and Houston was a legit team in this league. Dominic Kinnear was in charge at that point. He got them back to 2 MLS Cups in 2011 and 2012, where they lost to the LA Galaxy, but it felt different. They were more defensive. They were more bunker and counter. It wasn't as fun. Then he really took the fun out of it when they stopped being competitive, and then he was gone, and it just went south after that. Owen Coyle was a horrible hire for them, and it just didn't work. I think even going back to those Robertson Stadium days, Houston wasn't really based on appealing to the Latino population of the city of Houston at that time, and it was working because it was good soccer. It shows you 2 things. If you put a good product on the field, an exciting product on the field, people will support it. You have to show them that you're legit here, and having an ownership change could be that. There's going to be a lot of work to do to rebuild those relationships. But also, if you put a good, exciting team on the field and you sign the right guys to come in and galvanize that fan base, absolutely, Houston is a sleeping giant. It's a wonderful stadium. It's in a good location downtown. It's been a bad product. And people say, well, Houston's not a good market. That's nonsense. They draw.
Talk to Glenn Davis about that.
Well, no, Glenn Davis will tell you exactly what I'm saying. This is where I hear most of it is, the fans are not going to the Dynamo games because they don't trust that the team is actually going to consistently be competitive. That has to change. Yeah. And this can be a signal of intent. That dollar figure can be meaningful to the Houston fan base, but you got to back it up by building the relationships over the long term, which is going to take time, but also showing a level of investment in the team on the field. Yeah. And don't go sign a token Latino player just to do it. But yeah, if that's where your scouting takes you, if you're able to get the right players in that kind of situation that can appeal to a large amount of your community that you've ignored for a long stretch of your existence, do it. Get the right people. I was talking with Perfect Tommy in the Twitch pitch about this with Dallas, and Dallas is doing great with the academy, developing players. Their first team has been good, but it hasn't really broken through. It's felt like their recruitment has been really poor. A guy like Franco Jara just hasn't really worked, and they've had a bunch of guys like that who have come through, and they've been all right, but they haven't really shown anything. Play the kids in that situation. That's another element of Houston that hasn't done well. Their academy has been basically non-existent. Yeah. That has to change. But if you recruit the right guys to come in and you get that academy going, there's tons of talent in Houston. It is a sleeping giant. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely a sleeping giant. I don't know their training center situation, Burned. I think they do, but I don't know that situation for sure. They do have, they are paying for potential, absolutely. They do have to develop that themselves, and they are going to have to spend on that. But Houston, when we talk about Newcastle, for example, and sorry, Alex, if you're listening, Newcastle's felt like a sleeping giant in England. You put the right ownership there, you put the right investment there, they can be a big club. I've always felt like Houston could be a big club. And if you're MLS, you have to be at the league office thrilled about this because there's not a lot of markets out there that are not already in the league that have that kind of power. It's why you waited on Miami for as long as you did, and you have gulped and swallowed hard and taken the missteps and all the nonsense in Miami from time to time because Miami can be a transformational market for this league. It can be huge. San Diego could possibly be that. Vegas, possibly, but I feel like maybe I'm stretching a little bit. Phoenix is a good market. There's not really much else. Like St. Louis, I think, will be very good.
Yeah.
Charlotte, I think, will be very good and can be a Nashville, Minnesota type of success. Houston is one that, if they get it right, they could be big. Big. And when you look at the increasing relationship with Liga MX, Houston can be a huge part of that. Houston can be a huge situation. So you get the right guy in there who's going to have to pay to buy the team, but is going to continue to invest and do it in the right way. Do the long term with the relationship building in the academy. Do the short term with showing that you're for real and you're legit and giving Tab Ramos more talent to work with. Yeah, Houston can absolutely be a sleeping giant in this league. I think it's a big statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just what you're also doing is you're bringing the number 8 media market for television back into the fold. And you're bringing all of those eyes in with the product and they can focus and lock in on what's in front of them. You're bringing all those eyes in that section of Texas and everything that's behind it. It's collective weight, whether it's consumer or entertainment or TV, what have you. The number 8 media market in the country gets back in the fold if Houston becomes relevant again.
And Byrne points out, and it's a really good shout, don't forget about the Houston Dash being part of this. We've seen what the Portland Thorns have done in terms of being a profitable women's soccer club in the United States. Houston and Orlando have felt like the two really big misses for the NWSL with MLS infrastructure and not getting the right kind of relationship, not doing things correctly. Houston's a good team to watch too, by the way. if the Dynamo front office is stronger, if the Dynamo ownership is stronger, that's going to help the Dash. If women's soccer continues to grow in the Latin community, as we've seen it grow dramatically over the last few years, that's another huge element of this. And that could be kind of a sleeper in this deal as well for them. And getting Liga MX Femenil stars in, bringing players in from Tigres, which they've already started to do. The Dash could be really the one Latina kind of team in NWSL that has that feel to it. So could be another bonus to the deal. I think it's a deal that we won't be able to judge if they overpaid or not for a while. But you're paying because you think it's going to grow into that. And Brenner's selling because he thinks it's worth that right now. And that's the thing about these valuations and people who are like, oh, MLS, oh, whatever. It's not just the valuations on paper from Forbes magazine. It's the actual sale numbers. They're above and beyond what Forbes has valued it at. So if you're questioning those valuations, you might be questioning them on the low side because the sales are higher than those. And that's an incredible sign for the growth of this league. And the NWSL factors into that too. And what we're seeing with some NWSL news today, this is a league, and I think Atlanta will be there. I think Atlanta will be there sooner rather than later. But the NWSL is a league that can continue to grow soccer on both genders, on both sides of it in the United States. Because, we've seen the game grow as a whole. I can speak from my experience. I loved watching and learning from Mia Hamm as a player as much as John Harkes. I think there's a lot more little boys who learn from watching the best of the best in the women's game as well. That's a little underrated element that gets lost in the shuffle. Just like there's little girls in Atlanta who look up to Joseph Martinez and want to learn and play like Joseph. So it's going to grow the game as a whole. And when you're getting the kind of moves that we've seen with NWSL, bringing in Eniola Aluko to Angel City as the first ever sporting director, she left Women's Super League Aston Villa to come over and take this job because it was so appealing. No problems at Villa. This was just such an appealing thing for her. That's a huge opportunity to grow a team from scratch like that one. Mark Parsons, who's done incredible work with the Portland Thorns, he's going to take over the Netherlands women's national team. World Cup finalist last time out, and their manager went to England, Serena Wigman. So now it's Parsons who is going to take over that job. That's another credit to what the NWSL has done and developed. The growth of the NWSL component to that Houston deal is a big element to where soccer can go in this country. And I really push back on the ideas that some will continue to float about, it's not profitable, it can't be profitable, it's a drain, you don't want to have a women's team because it's money that you could have spent on the men's team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's an investment. It is. It is not something that's going to break you because the costs for it are manageable. If you are able to draw half of what the Portland Thorns do on a regular basis, you can make the numbers work and be just fine. But it's an investment that if you have two teams, if you have a men's team, you have a women's team, they can support one another in a lot of ways. The women's team can get the brand, get the club into places that maybe the men's team, it's a harder go. It's a big deal, and it can grow the club as a whole. And I think that's why you're seeing big clubs in Europe invest more in the women's game because they see the financial benefit. There is a feel-good component. I mean, you're not gonna run from that. But it's past what it used to be, where it was an idea that you invested in women's professional sports because it was the right thing to do. Now, smart people with a lot of money are investing in women's professional sports because it's a good business decision. And that's what's going to lead to ultimate success. Because the right thing to do, the good feeling, the charitable aspect, that fades. And we saw it with two leagues previously. The NWSL is past that. They're showing that it is a good business decision to be a partner with a women's professional soccer league in this country. And it's only going to grow from here. So I do think the Dash are a huge part of this deal. I think Atlanta will be a huge part of NWSL going forward. Angel City is going to elevate the league in a big way. Their partnership with CBS is going to elevate the league in a big way. And they could get a bump from the Olympics this year as well, depending on how the U.S. does. It's only going to continue to go up from here for the NWSL. I'm really excited to see it grow.
Yeah, Jarrett has joined us. And Jarrett, we were talking about the $400 million price tag in getting, I guess, how would you phrase it, Jason? Operating rights for majority stake for the Dynamo and the Dash and all of the knock-on effects.
Well, no. You're buying the Dynamo and the Dash. No. You're buying the Dynamo and the Dash. You're getting the stadium operating rights. That's the important part. You're buying the two teams. There's no wiggle room on that. You're buying them. That's a big deal. That's a lot of money for two teams.
And then the operations are in and around BBVA Stadium. So it's a big day for MLS, it's a big day for NWSL, and it's a big day for Houston, Jarrett. So we've been talking about that the last little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen a number of people mention that Houston's kind of a sleeping giant in all of this.
Hey,
when you
that's
think
what I
about the
said.
size of the media market and stuff. Come again?
I just said that.
Oh, okay. Well,
you've been listening.
I was late to the party. No, I actually haven't been listening.
How is the car, by the way?
It's in one piece. I think it has to actually do with the battery itself. The battery was corrosive as hell.
That's why it said no, huh?
That's why it literally said no.
Yeah, if when I don't think this was mentioned on the 2's review last night, Jarrett had to get a lift literally to the 2's match because he went to start his car and it literally said no on its dashboard. Like, I didn't know cars did this. Jarrett has a special car that says, no, I'm not taking you. No.
Yeah, I'll post it in the Discord because it was actually it was a good sign. And everything worked great today, of course.
Of course.
Either way, I digress.
No.
Houston is a sleeping giant in all this. And apparently you've said it too now, so I'll jump on that wagon. But you got a big stadium, you got a big market, you got tons of potential. You've had some really good talent go through there on both sides, the men's and women's. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to get the investment, I really like the chances of Houston really growing and being problematic going forward, and not just in the sense of throwing money around and hey, they're going to start dropping $10 million on designated players and this, that, and the other. But actual investment in terms of how you're reaching out to the community, stadium renovations if they need to be done. I don't know the state of the stadium out there because I haven't been out there to experience a game. But in terms of reaching out and building out the relationship with the community, and in terms of putting the right people in charge, hopefully it comes to fruition for them.
A couple of things on Twitter. Michael Head says, when Atlanta gets the NWSL team, will they go the EU way? Not honestly EU way, Michael. It's a world thing because South America does it too. And call them Atlanta United Women. I hope so. It would be great for marketing. They can't because of the relationships with MLS and Adidas and the NWSL and Nike. That's why you have the Timbers and the Thorns, the Dynamo and the Dash, the Pride in Orlando City. Even North Carolina Courage and North Carolina FC. I think you'll see something that is obviously part of the brand, but will have its own identity because of that relationship. It's just down to contracts and down to the business. I've felt like, looking at the benefits that I think the FA Women's Super League teams have had being attached to the overall club and being under the same umbrella when it's treated correctly, and sometimes it isn't, looking at you, Liverpool. When it's treated the right way, I think there's a huge benefit to that. And it's why Real Madrid bought a team to then brand as Real Madrid and go bigger with it, because having that Real Madrid brand to it is bigger than an independent brand. It will be obviously linked, but how linked and how, I don't know, in sync will it be? And that's the part that's hard to say. I don't know, but I'd be really curious to see what they come up with. I would expect the color scheme to be the same, stuff like that to be the same. I think it's just burned to those contracts, and Adidas has paid a lot of money to MLS to be the exclusive on the kits, and then in turn Nike paid a good bit of money to the NWSL to do the same. If one of them did both, then I think you could wash away some of that. But I think you can still make it work. It doesn't hurt the Portland Thorns. It's obvious they're part of the Timbers family, and the Timbers are part of the Thorns family. It's all in together. I think it's all about how you do it. It can work. It just adds one more little layer and one more step you got to deal with.
Yeah. And go ahead, Jarrett.
So aside from just seeing the parlay release this morning and giving my black helicopter theories, is this just wishful talk about Atlanta in NWSL?
No.
We're hoping for,
settle down, Jarrett.
This?
Settle down. You're going to get people going.
That's why I'm asking.
I know.
Have people been talking with rumors and whatnot?
No.
I'm just the rumor sounder. Damn you, Vince McMahon.
People have a tendency to take things out of context that we say, so I'm trying to cut you off before they do that to you.
Okay.
Jarrett Smith is not breaking news.
No,
Jarrett Smith is not bringing the NWSL to Atlanta.
Unless there's something we don't know.
No, he's not. Trust me. I can say for sure. My sources tell me that Jarrett Smith is not bringing the NWSL to Atlanta. I think it will happen.
I would sooner be successful bringing NHL back to Atlanta.
You had to go there.
Jarrett,
we're both hurt, John.
Why did you open up that can of worms? Now John's broken for the rest of the show.
No, John's just pissed at Atlanta's spirit for the rest of the show, considering we just passed the 10-year anniversary.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, because we listened to hockey on the way home. John's car last night. That.
Well, you guys can stew over that when we hear from Laurence Wy here in just a minute when we talk about USL Championship. But NWSL will happen in Atlanta. I think it's a matter of time. I don't know how the timeline got changed because of COVID, but I do think it'll happen. There are things logistically that have to happen for Atlanta United to do it in terms of facilities, training facilities that, will take a minute, but I think everything is in place to make that happen when the time is right. And the league is in a good place. It's not where it was even a couple of years ago when it was, okay, if Atlanta comes in, do they elevate the league? I think the league's been elevated. So now it's a good business play.
Yeah.
And it's just figuring out the logistics of it. So stay tuned. I mean, I've said it a bunch of times when this has come up. Arthur Blank, mentioned it to Mike and I on Five Stripes Countdown ahead of the Cincinnati game last year, right before the pandemic hit for us and shut everything down, that they were exploring an NWSL team. I mean, without us asking it, he brought it up. So it's definitely in the thinking. It's just when does it happen? We'll have to wait and see. And as people have said about naming and contracts and stuff, there are always ways to make things work. And yes, there could be changes to the way things are currently structured. I don't think it's a breaking point if you're not able to be Atlanta United Women or however you phrase it or however you put it. I think you can create a brand that is obviously Atlanta United that is slightly different to make things work. It can.
I would not.
It can be fun.
If we're gonna get hypothetical and hopeful here, somehow work the Athena name into it. Let's get weird.
I've wondered about that. Yeah, there's some ways to play it. So stay tuned on all of that. We had a long talk with Niko Moreno about Atlanta and Seattle, Jarrett, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Did you have anything else that has stood out to you reflecting on the 2's thrashing of FC Tulsa last night?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
It's just apparently people in Tulsa got upset at everything that happened on social media. Yeah, on the Reddits.
What happened?
Apparently, it's like, well, I hate that two teams can bring down MLS players. Y'all, the players that burned you alive weren't even MLS players.
Mm-mm.
Really?
It was a cat who just was getting frozen out of Manchester United's academy. A dude who just got drafted out of Notre Dame. Austin FC's coach's kid. And
University of Charleston.
Full disclosure, Tyler Wolff is on an MLS contract, so they can somehow complain about that one, I guess.
Fine, but he is not. This was not Atlanta bringing down. This wasn't bringing down, guys who were etched into the starting 11.
Yes.
I don't want to hear about MLS players coming down because, usually when 2's teams get beat, they just chalk it up as, oh, we're playing a 2's team, we're going to beat them down. But when you lose, you can't be upset, especially when the people who hurt you for 90 minutes, most of them weren't MLS guys. Or guys on 2's contracts trying to earn the opportunity.
It's a silly argument. It's not new. It's come up before. It came up way back in the day when you had the Project 40 team, which was the precursor to Generation Adidas. It was when Nike had that program rather than Adidas. And they actually put a team into the A-League in the second division. And I was in the room at the league meetings in 1998 getting ready for the 98 season, which was the first year of Project 40. And that was a crazy situation because they didn't have a home. They were basically the Project 40 guys, the Generation Adidas guys now in MLS were loaned down to play for this team, and they'd go play in the A-League cities. And it was a league team, and their games counted and all that, but all their games were on the road, and the roster changed all the time because sometimes the Project 40 guys were playing for the MLS team. They weren't loaned down. An MLS team would loan somebody else down that wasn't getting playing time, that was under a certain age threshold. And that was the number one thing that all the teams in the A-League complained about was, well, how can we not know that they're going to loan somebody down that's going to hurt us in this game? It's like, first off, genius. They're not playing any home games, so you're complaining about something that's kind of silly. Second, you're getting guys who aren't playing in MLS right now because they're not going to loan a first-team guy down and lose first-team minutes in first-team matches to play in the second division. That's not going to happen. That argument is so faulty across the board because it doesn't make logistical sense. So Gabriel Heinze is going to loan somebody down right now that he's going to put at risk for playing on Sunday, or he's going to hold somebody back from playing on Saturday to play on Wednesday against Tulsa to be fresh to deal with FC Tulsa. Right. No. He's going to look at it with Tony Annan. They're going to say, okay, these are guys who need time. They're available. They need to play 45. They need to play 60, which is very disruptive to a team anyway, to know that you've got 3 or 4 guys who can only play a certain amount of time. You know, Ben Lundgaard played his first game of the year after dealing with injury. Mikey Ambrose hasn't played in MLS with Atlanta United this season. He's played a couple of games with the 2's. George Campbell, same. Alex DeJohn has made 1 appearance in MLS. Mateo Sosetsu hasn't appeared in MLS yet because he was dealing with immigration issues and getting his green card. So that's a silly argument. Jarrett's right about the number one thing, is it was Chris Allen, it was Aiden McFadden, it was Connor Stanley. Those are the ones who did the damage in this game, and those are the ones who beat Tulsa in a bad way.
Man, Coleman Gannon and Will Ryle are out there trying to get a first-team contract, and Tulsa just happened to be in the way, which is Tulsa's misfortune. I guess my overarching thing, after thinking about it and sleeping on it, is, look, I can confidently tell y'all that Atlanta United 2 is not going to win every game this year. They're not going to win games 5-0. No. They're not going to score 5 goals every time out. But I think you're to the point now that everyone that plays against this team is going to know they were in a game and in something of a fight, because I don't think that this doesn't have the feel of some of those younger 2's teams we've seen in the past where they lacked some of the bite, where some of the bite came from veteran players, and that's all it came from. That bite's throughout the team now, and they're all carrying a switchblade. They've all got a razor blade tucked in their gum between their cheek and gum, and they're ready to go. So even in games they lose, I would not be surprised if we see them playing some really intense games with many cards thrown around on both sides as they get stuck in. They got to prove something against these adults if they want that first team deal.
I don't know how to feel about your analogies, but I will accept them. And I expect to hear more of them possibly tonight at Urban Tree Cidery. Jared, are you going to make an appearance?
There's a distinct possibility. I have to get a growler anyway, so I guess I might as well.
Okay. There you go.
I've been instructed to get a growler full of cider.
Well, there you go. So we will see you on a microphone at Urban Tree Cidery tonight, 6 o'clock, coming up here fairly soon. Lots of specials on the fan cider, the Atlanta United 2 branded cider. Check in as a SDH regular, as a member of the family with us at the table. Scott Flood will get you taken care of. You'll get a free 6-pack of the cider upon arrival, and it's a pretty sweet deal that Urban Tree has hooked up for us. John Aiken from Oglethorpe University will be one of our guests as well. We'll talk Atlanta youth soccer. We'll get his thoughts on Atlanta United. We'll talk about the college game and just how crazy this past year has been. But, Jarrett, we're going to have to let you go because we have to finish
That's
up
fine
with
by me.
our... Well, okay then.
Wow.
Well, all righty then. First you come in, you try to start rumors about, Atlanta's getting NWSL. You steal my Sleeping Giant line. I mean, come on, man.
You know what? I left wanton destruction in my path, and that's really all I need.
That sounds about right, Jarrett. Well, you'll do more of that tonight. We'll see you at 6 o'clock over at Urban Tree.
That sounds fun. Take care.
Bye.
Jarrett_Smith, always causing problems around here. Okay. John's going to let people know that we're going to have our USL Championship check-in here in just a second. That's going to conclude today's SDH. Again, we'll be back live on Twitch for the live tour stop at Urban Tree Cidery starting at 6 o'clock tonight. We will be taking your questions. It'll be a Q&A starting at 7:30. So if you're on site, we'll take your questions. If you are watching live, we will take your questions on Twitch as well, and that can get kind of weird at times. People might ask John things like, if you were a vegetable, what vegetable would you be? And he got thoroughly disgusted by the premise of even being a vegetable.
Exactly.
He hates vegetables. It's really sad. But we're going to finish with our weekly check-in. A little bit different time slot than usual, but our weekly check-in on the USL Championship. Atlanta United 2 shook things up a little bit last night, and we will see where they fall in next week's Power Rankings, but we'll talk Power Rankings. We'll talk about some of the storylines around the league, and you will get to hear from an old friend with Atlanta United, Laurence Wy, who is now with the Tampa Bay Rowdies. So USL Championship to finish the show. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. We know we got a late start today. Thank you for being part of it. Thanks for all the questions and commentary on the Twitch pitch. Congrats to all of you who got your parlay kits, because that seemed to be a challenging thing this morning for a lot of folks. I think a lot of SDH listeners were able to get that done. Thanks for sharing the links in the Twitch pitch. But now it's time to wrap up with the USL Championship down here.
It is Soccer Down Here's look at the USL Championship. A very busy week. Some teams off to very hot starts in the league here in 2021. And some big news that's come up from both coasts when it comes to life in the USL Championship. First and foremost, as Jason and I will take you through everything that is going on in the league, preview the weekend that is coming up. One of those hot teams that we'll get into when it comes to the power rankings, the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And Tampa Bay, with their hot start, we figured we'd kind of see what's going on with the Rowdies down there at Al Lang. And here's our visit with Laurence Wy, a very familiar face to SDH.
Now it's time on SDH to take a deeper dive into the USL Championship, and hanging out with us is part of a very experienced midfield. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Part of the midfield for the Tampa Bay Rowdies, Laurence Wy. Laurence, thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's go back short term and just look back at the last match. And I know a lot of folks were touting it as that the matchup of two of the best, and rematch here, two of the best from last season, coming at it early in this year with the non-conference play. What were some of your takeaways from going up against Phoenix in the match last weekend?
Yeah, I mean, going into the game, we knew it was a big test for us to see where we're at, just as the third game of the season. We know they have a really good attacking front three. So that was kind of our focus. Just can we stop them doing that? And then, play our game too. The game was, quite cagey. Towards the end, I mean, at the start of the game, I feel like we played our game pretty well, switching the play, getting the ball nice and wide, and, getting them tired with the added humidity in Tampa. I thought we stuck to our game plan very well. We ended up kind of limiting and restricting their chances. And, we got the early goal, which allowed us to kind of get comfortable in the game and, do our thing.
All right, so 3 matches in, all at home, and that kind of gives a distinct advantage, I think, in starting this marathon that is the USL Championship season. 3 against Charlotte, got the Duke. 3 against Pittsburgh, got the win there. 2 against Phoenix, get the win there. 3-0, 8 goals for, 1 against. When you look at these first 3 matches, what are some of your takeaways?
I think that is obviously a very good start to the year. Like you said, we are playing at Al Lang Stadium. We are playing at our home stadium. It's something that we're very familiar with and comfortable with. Different playing conditions, occur in other places. Like if we'd have played away at Pittsburgh, would have been a different game plan, things like that. So it is, that consistency definitely is helping us right now build momentum. And yeah, it should be an interesting year, with the 8 goals that we've already scored. I think, we've even got more to give defensively. I mean, the question that Neil asked us is, last year, I think the team conceded, I think it was low double digits or even say high single digits in a season. So I think our goal this year is defensively, to beat that, to concede even less goals and score even more goals. So we have kind of these statistics that we look at, and kind of if we stick by the numbers, the results come. So, I mean, that's all we're trying to do right now. We're trying to build on kind of, touches in the opposition box, and I think these things that we look at, which give us a better, larger picture, and get us results.
What's it been like for you coming into this organization? Because a lot of folks in the footprint remember you being with Atlanta United, the Atlanta United organization. Now you're there in Tampa. What's it been like for you to integrate into this very experienced bunch?
It's been amazing. Yeah. I mean, I've really enjoyed my time in Atlanta, and I learned so much, and that's honestly come out a little bit now because last year, I only played 7 games for the first team, and, I was grinding, learning with the first team, in training and stuff like that. But then, coming here now I've got the opportunity to play and start in, the first 3 games. So I'm, very excited to see where it goes, and, it helps having, veterans around me, like Forrest Lasso behind me, Gwenzati ahead of me, so I've got all these, big time guys around me, to help, because I'm still young. I'm only in my 3rd year, so I'm still looking to learn here and, get valuable minutes on the field, with these guys that have experienced an awful lot. So I'm just excited to keep going, with this fantastic team. And, you may ask me questions, in later on in the show, but I mean, the togetherness from this team and just the team chemistry and everything is something that I've not really seen before. It's amazing. It brings me back a little bit to my college days at Furman, but everyone's just in it for the right reason. Everyone really wants to help one another and go out of the way to do that. So I'm loving it right now, and everyone's welcoming me with open arms.
So then let's get into the midfield group here a little bit, because it is an experienced group. For those that follow the USL Championship, you're looking at guys like, and just in the roster sense, it's Lewis Hilton, it's John Acker, it's Zach Steinberg, who's been in multiple leagues. It's Leo Fernandez, a veteran, Jordan Doherty, Dalgard, Hughes, Cervelli, Luis Fernando. There's a lot of veteran influence there. There are a lot of different guys with a lot of different approaches that you can learn from there in Tampa.
100%, yeah. I mean, when I was playing for the Atlanta United 2's, and then on the first team, my 2nd year, I saw, Lewis Hilton playing in the US Open Cup, and, he was doing things against MLS teams, great set piece taker. Leo Fernandez, I admire what he can do 1v1 on the wing. And yet we've got so much depth, this is a little bit of a new position for me as a, box-to-box midfielder, but I have so many guys around me, helping me, telling me different things. And just when you look at the bench too, I mean, you just got experience on the bench too, and guys that, if they weren't at Tampa, any other USL team, they'd be, stars and, big players for. And I'm sure, at some point in the year, there'll be big players for us too.
What's been the biggest adjustment turning into a box-to-box midfielder for you? Is it mental? Is it what's the biggest adjustment for you there?
The biggest adjustment for me is receiving the ball when I'm not facing forwards, definitely, because as a centre-back in Atlanta, with various managers under Stephen Glass, and Frank de Boer, that, when I had the ball, I received it, sideways, facing forwards, and, I picked my passes. That was kind of my forte, and, what a lot of, fans remembered me for, my passing range. So now it's, improving my shorter game and being comfortable under pressure and turning out of pressure and, actually driving forward and getting forwards now. So I've enjoyed that. I've always, when I was younger, at Manchester United and, previous clubs I've been at in college, I was good at getting forward. And, that's something that at Atlanta, I wasn't able to show. So I'm really enjoying that now, showing that in my engine.
What's it like learning from Coach Collins?
It's amazing. Yeah, I spoke to Neil about this. I had, Stephen Glass as my first professional head coach who's Scottish. So I got a little bit of a taste, of what I'd be in for. But he's awesome. I mean, he holds me accountable at all times. And he pushes me all the time, on the field. He's just trying to make me as good as I can be. And, I've really appreciated the trust that he's instilled in me, to start me right off the bat. And, he has big plans for me in this team from what we've talked about. And, I just enjoy, that opportunity that he's given me.
Laurence Wy, Tampa Bay Rowdies, hanging out with us here on Soccer Down Here as our in-depth look at the USL Championship continues this week, stopping in Tampa. Yeah, go ahead. There you go. Get the tea. Is it hot?
Oh, it's nice. Very nice. Yorkshire.
Okay. So what's in it? Is it straight up Yorkshire? What's in it?
Yeah, it's just Yorkshire tea. It's just black tea from where I come from. Back home in Bolton, England, normally when my family comes over, they bring a couple boxes in the suitcase because it's hard to buy over here and it's expensive in Publix.
There you go. See, that's definitely thinking ahead because, you got to have the family help you out in these situations. Very, very good. What else do they bring when they come and visit? What else do they bring?
They normally bring sweets and chocolate because America doesn't really do chocolate too well. Cadbury's, I really enjoy the Cadbury's cream eggs that they have in England, actually. I've not managed to get my hands on some in the US. So whenever they come over, they bring a little stash for me, and it's good.
All right. Now, do you share with the teammates with the tea and with the sweets, or do you kind of keep them to yourself, put them in the freezer, and not tell anybody that they're there?
Well, I've actually got so many boxes of tea, so I do share them. In Atlanta, it was funny. Mo Adams used to come down to my apartment, in the afternoon, humming around. And, normally, as soon as that kettle was getting warm, he was like, "Oh, could you pour us one, please?" I was like, "No problem, mate." So, yeah, a lot of the boys, have got into tea and that. I mean, obviously, Mo being from England, he enjoys a little bit of tea too.
All right, so then who's doing this right now for Tampa? Who's ducking into your place and taking your tea? I mean, who are we talking about here?
The door's been locked so far, but I'm sure the boys will get on it soon. Normally we have coffee at the training ground, so they're pretty okay with that. But I'll definitely have to show them a little tea collection soon.
There you go. When it comes to Coach Collins, getting back to Coach here for a second, in the limited time that you've been there in Tampa, what was the first lesson that he gave to you that stuck about your change and how things are this season? Has there been one thing that's really resonated with you so far?
Yeah, massively. It wasn't necessarily from Coach Collins directly, but it was a factor of his culture that he's created. So when I scored my first goal against Inter Miami, which was a game winner, I just, out of excitement, I kind of just like ran around celebrating, and some of the boys said, "Hey, Laurence, come over here, because as a team, Tampa Bay, they like to celebrate as a team. Everything's done as a team. We walk out the tunnel as a team. We do everything as a team. And that scares a lot of teams because, everyone's, some teams don't really have that culture and it's kind of individualistic. So when they see that, it scares them. So yeah, that's something I massively learned, that, it's about the team. And if we instill our trust in others and kind of work in that direction, then we'll be unstoppable.
when you're going against teammates in practice, who's the toughest guy to go against that you've had to either have a one-on-one matchup or have to think and process around in 3 dimensions? Who's the toughest guy that you've had to face in practice, and why?
Probably Jordan Scarlett, to be honest. I don't think I've seen many players with his dedication to training and games and everything. He is always so up for training, so into it. And I mean, if you've seen him play, he's a very aggressive defender, and he brings that to training. He doesn't care. So yeah, definitely. If I get close to him, I think I'm passing the ball before he gets close to me and saving my ankles for the game. But yeah, credit to him.
When you look at yet another matchup this weekend to start things off at home, it's the end of the home stand before you finally hit the road this year. It's against the Miami FC. I don't know how much tape you've had to watch or how much discussions you've had going up against a very veteran team that's been organized in that way. So you have 2 teams that are somewhat veteran in nature with the older players that are a part of it. What's the early scouting report? What are the early lessons so far heading into this matchup against the Miami FC this weekend at Al Ain?
Yeah, I mean, we've just watched some video today. We kind of break it up into unit work. So we'll look at the midfielders and see what they like to do player for player. Obviously, they have a couple of players in the midfield that are very good at winning duels. They like to sit back kind of in a flat line. So we'll have to play around them a little bit and play side to side. I mean, that's normally how USL teams come to play at Al Ain. They know that we want the ball and we want to play, so they normally like to sit in and catch us on the counter. Obviously, they've got some very experienced players at the back. Paco Craig, I think I played against him my first year, very good defender. And yeah, a well-managed team, so it should be interesting. But based on, the footage that we've looked at, we know what we need to do. And if we do the job and collectively do our jobs as a team, then I think that we'll be in a good position.
Things are a little different this year in USL Championship. Divisions have been kind of jumbled up a little bit from traditional matchups that we're used to seeing. This year for Tampa, it's you, Hartford, Miami, Red Bulls 2, and then you've got Charlotte, Charleston, Pittsburgh, and Loudoun. When you look at that group and the challenges that the Atlantic has this year, what sticks out in your mind?
I mean, yeah, I literally looked at the league table yesterday and I saw Hartford. I mean, Hartford have definitely come from strength to strength, and they seem like a team that, has improved drastically. And credit to them. They've won a couple of games. I think they drawed the other day. So they're definitely a team that we're looking out for. Obviously, the Miami FC, they've always been a very strong team and had a very good roster. So there's someone that sticks out. I mean, even with, Pittsburgh and teams like that. I mean, Pittsburgh, we never thought we'd beat them 3-0, but that if we stick to our, the way we play and the way we are as a team, things like that can happen. So, even with these results that we've just had, we know that the next time we play them, it could be a different story. So, we're wary of everyone. And I think that's the biggest thing for us right now. We're the team to beat after Saturday, and complacency is the only thing that's going to prevent us from keep pushing onwards.
And we will keep an eye on things with you and with Tampa and with the Atlantic Division and everything going on down there with the Rowdies. Laurence Wy, midfielder for the Rowdies, thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH as we look at the USL Championship. Good luck this weekend against the Miami FC. Good luck in hoarding your tea until the family continues to bring more and hoarding all of the Cadbury and all that kind of stuff. Thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH. We'll be keeping an eye.
Thank you for having me, John. I appreciate it.
John, you're muted.
I am no longer.
Thank you.
That's what we're here for. Good to catch up with Greenville OG as you were having the conversation on the Twitch pitch and other places. Laurence Wy, the pride of Furman, and Greenville FC. Good to catch up with him and what's going on with Tampa Bay. And good to know that when he gets stuff brought over by the family from England, that other folks want to raid his cabinets and make sure that he doesn't have as much as he had initially when the parents brought stuff over.
Yeah, we had some folks on the Twitch pitch. Danny DDT watching said, "Yeah, that's legit. The Yorkshire tea, that is absolutely legit." Also gave some shouts to Lawrence's time in Manchester United's academy before making the jump over to the States at the university level. I'm sure that Laurence is definitely bullish on Manchester United's chances in the Europa League final. You can tweet at him at Laurence Wy. On Twitter. He's actually very engaged on Twitter and Instagram. It's Laurence Wy with a U in both places, and he will answer your questions. Laurence is a good dude. I'm really happy for him making it work down in Tampa Bay. It just didn't quite work out here in Atlanta with the first team, but he's going to get a chance to play a lot in Tampa Bay, and that's what he needs as a young player breaking through. He needs games. He needs minutes. That's the right fit for him right now. And I think he gives them a different look because he can play that physical style that Tampa Bay is known for. He's got a great right foot. He can hit the long ball that is needed, the big switch. But he's also, got some technique and he can play. And Tampa Bay has some players who can play. I think they're a team that can kind of show different things depending on where they're playing and who they're playing. The Rowdies, in my mind, are the most complete team in the USL Championship, and in the power rankings from USLChampionship.com, they're number 1, and they deserved to be coming into the week. FC Tulsa was number 2. They won't be number 2 next week.
No, they will not. And you had 3 of the top 4 teams had no blemishes on their records coming into this week. It was Tampa and FC Tulsa at 1 and 2, El Paso Locomotive at number 3. And it's going to be one of the games that is going to be big this upcoming weekend with Rio Grande Valley. And RGV was the other undefeated right there at number 4. Phoenix, with their loss to Tampa, they dropped down to number 5. Lou City, we know what Lou City brings to the table. San Diego Loyal comes across in one of those cross-conference games, one of those at-larges, I guess, for lack of a better word. That's this week there at 6. Sacramento Republic at 2-0. They're at number 7. New Mexico United at number 8. 1-1-1 across the board. Indy 11 at 1-1. San Antonio FC wraps out your top 10 at 1-1-1 as well. And they got their first loss of the season. It was to a rival, so that's how they end up dropping to number 10. That's your number 10 in the power rankings.
The game I'll be watching this weekend is El Paso and Rio Grande Valley. Be checking in on that one. El Paso will be missing Logan Ketterer, who is on loan with the Portland Timbers right now. He was excellent in his first game, had a big penalty save. He's probably going to get another opportunity with Portland. So El Paso will have to turn to their depth at goalkeeper, which isn't ideal as you're getting ready to host Rio Grande Valley. And RGV picked up a player that I thought might have a breakthrough in MLS. He hasn't yet. Sporting Kansas City let him go. Juan Kuzain. Really technical central midfielder that I've always liked. RGV is a good spot for him. Wilmer Cabrera is a good manager for him to take that next step. I think one of the big questions for next week, and maybe we'll get a better sense of it after Sunday when Atlanta United 2 is back in action against Memphis, is how far does Tulsa fall in the power rankings after their honestly shocking loss based off what they had done in their first 3 games? And how far does Atlanta United 2 rise after 1 win and a game against Memphis where I think Atlanta United 2 goes in as the favorite in that match?
Yeah, and you look at the rest of the folks here in the footprint. Birmingham is at number 12 coming into this weekend in power rankings at 1-1-1. They're at San Antonio. And Legion at Legion turned out to be a rousing success for Birmingham in their game against Memphis 9-1. Over 10,000 people showed up in Birmingham for Legion at Legion. Great support for the soccer community showing up in force at Legion Field with over 10,000 for that Birmingham game. The Miami FC currently at 13 coming in. They're at Tampa Bay in week 5. You're also looking at Charlotte, who's a part of the footprint. They're at 17. Charleston, obviously in Tampa's division, since we had Laurence Wy on just a second ago, they're at 18, down 5, flattened their home opener, losing 3-0 to Charlotte. And then you're looking at Memphis right now at 23, Atlanta United 2 at 25, Loudon, it's a part of our discussions at 28. OKC Energy at 29. Sporting Kansas City 2. They're at number 30 out of the 31 teams. So that's just a look at the footprint when it comes to how things are here in the Southeast when it comes to USL Championship and the power rankings coming into this weekend.
A couple of other pieces of news around the USL Championship. Oakland Roots surprised everybody when they made a coaching change right on the eve of their first USL Championship season, but they have made a decision to how they'll handle the coaching search and how they'll handle the 2021 season.
And it's going to be the technical director continuing to do what he's been doing. He was the interim, and so now he's just going to continue to be on the touchline for the season. Jordan Farrell, he's going to remain head coach for 2021, and they're just going to focus on their applications, and it is what they're referring to as a worldwide search to bring in someone for Oakland Roots for 2022. Farrell admitted that coaching is what he loves to do, but it's also about building culture, and so those are going to be two things that he's going to be focused on in 2021 for Oakland Roots. Oakland Roots in the low 20s when it comes to power rankings. They have a game against LA Galaxy 2, Los Dos, this weekend.
And the all-time leading scorer in the regular season is back in the league. Dane Kelly returns.
88 goals, regular season scoring record for USL Championship. He had 11 goals in 16 games last year for the Charlotte Independents, and he's going to be heading back. He's excited, obviously, about going back there with Coach Mike Jeffries, a little over 1,300 minutes played last year. And so 11 goals on 47 shots, so a conversion rate just a little under 25%. But, just when you see Charlotte putting 3 in the back of the net against Charleston, and now they're adding Dane Kelly, things are going to be interesting offensively for Charlotte when we're looking at him here in 2021.
Sunday, there is some overlap for Atlanta United, too, for Atlanta-based fans looking to watch that game with Memphis or head out to the Fraction to watch it in person. Kickoff for that will be just after 3:30. Atlanta United in Seattle won't kick off until close to 5 o'clock. It'll be a 4:55 start on Big Fox. So there'll be a little bit of overlap, but you will be able to watch a good large portion of the 2's or go out and watch. And, you could have your earbuds in, tune to 92.9 The Game and listen to Atlanta and Seattle, and then listen on your way home or maybe heading to a local establishment where you could watch the rest of that. So there's some opportunities there if you're local and you want to go out and see live soccer this weekend, and still also watch the MLS team out on the road. So big weekend in USL Championship, as I think we're starting to get a sense of who's a contender, who is a pretender so far this season. And right now it feels like Tampa is definitely the contender that has established themselves. Tulsa, now there's questions. Rio Grande Valley, they get a win against El Paso. Okay, they're there with Tampa Bay.
Yep.
There's a couple others that I think can elevate themselves into that. And there's a lot of others we just have questions about. It's early. It's the second division. This is what we see.
And, you're looking at match 3, match 4, here early in the footprint. But I think you're right on there. When you look at 3 versus 4, you're looking at RGV and El Paso. That's definitely one that folks should circle if they are looking for things to pay attention to in the USL Championship. That one right there should be top of the list when it comes to this weekend for 2 teams right there, top of the power rankings. El Paso, remember, they only had a draw in that first match. Rio Grande Valley, 3 wins on the spin, and they've been making a big climb in power rankings. But 3 and 4 could be an early statement for things out there in the Mountain Time Zone. One
other signing that has popped up today on Thursday that is another all-time leading scorer in league history, 5th all-time. Kyle Gregg, who was formerly with St. Louis, is going to Lou City. 57 regular season goals. He could be available, it looks like, on Saturday as Lou City hosts San Diego, which is a really interesting cross-conference matchup at Lynn Family Stadium.
Yeah, when they asked Danny Cruz about the signing, Cruz said, from a mentality and character standpoint, Kyle fits everything we're looking for at Louisville City. An ability to put the opponent under pressure and excels in the air from a set-piece standpoint. Experience and work rate are also important traits. Looking forward to seeing how he integrates with our club, end quote. 2018 to 2020, you may remember him from his time at St. Louis FC. another championship rival that, remember, they folded after the end of last season. 15 games during the 2020 campaign, 3 goals, 2 assists. 31 years old, but another solid pickup there for Lou City, bringing in Kyle Gregg.
Awesome. Wrap it up, John.
That is our look. Soccer Down Here's look at the USL Championship. Thanks for hanging out with us one more week. It was great to catch up with Laurence Wy. Great to let you hear what else is going on in and around the league. Enjoy the USL Championship right here on SDH every week.
Thanks for hanging out, y'all. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the commentary in the Twitch pitch. Thanks for all the questions. We will be back tonight, 6 o'clock from Urban Tree Cidery. If you can join us in person, we'd love to see you. If you can join us virtually, we will be waving virtually, and we'll have soccer talk for you a couple hours tonight from 6 to 8 live on site. Thanks for being part of the show today. We will see you in a few hours. Mucho plati, y'all.
Mucho plati, y'all.